Chapter 10:20. What could he do? What could he do? Pei Yi was frustrated. He couldn't beat her at all. Even his gun couldn't deal with her. Did he have to use an atomic bomb? Shi Sheng jumped off the stage. The people who were pointing their guns at him retreated. She walked slowly towards Pei Yi. Behind Pei Yi was the stage. He couldn't retreat and could only stare at her. "Wen Bei, what do you want?" "Oh, weren't you a man of few words?" How could he say such a word at this moment? "What did you want to do just now?" Shi Sheng asked. Pei Yi didn't answer. Shi Sheng tilted her head. Her tone was casual, as if she was asking about the weather today. "Plus what happened last time, don't you think I should kill you?" Pei Yi glanced in the direction of the door. But before he could see clearly, a cold light flashed in front of his eyes. A sharp sword swept towards him from the side. Pei Yi was shocked. He quickly bent down, dodged the iron sword, and rolled on the ground. The iron sword struck the stage, and the extravagantly decorated stage collapsed with a boom. Just as Shi Sheng was about to continue slashing Pei Yi, one of the idiots beside her suddenly fired a shot. The sound was like a stone being thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples to form on the surface of the lake, which then turned into a violent storm. F***ck. Shi Sheng cursed in a low voice. She didn't have enough strength, but she made up for it with luck. That little B***tch, Mr. Plot, was really too much. Couldn't he take care of her, a lone cannon fodder, once in a while? If he took care of you, the male and female leads wouldn't need to live. Shi Sheng waved away the people blocking her way. She wanted to kill the male lead, but she couldn't find him in the crowd. The police had come in to arrest her. But now, the police suddenly joined forces with those people to deal with her. Shi Sheng was so angry that her stomach hurt. It was all that idiotic male lead's fault. She killed her way out and violently split the wall beside her. She quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. The policemen and bigwigs who were left behind were dumbfounded. What happened today was a little surreal, and they had to take it slow. Shi Sheng left Huajinyuan and returned to the villa. He packed up the original owner's belongings and ran away quickly. If she snatched this thing, wouldn't those people form an alliance to hunt her down? Well, just thinking about it made him excited. At this time, not only were those people looking for her, but the police were also looking for her. The golden dragon seal had been placed in the museum for a long time and had been stolen not long ago. They had been investigating its whereabouts for a few months before they found it in Huajinyuan. If not for Shi Sheng's sudden appearance, they would have taken the golden dragon seal back. The entire Huajinyuan was sealed off. Only a few of the big shots were caught that day. Even if they were caught, they had no choice but to let them go under the pressure. And this instigator disappeared just like that, and there was no more news of her. At this moment, Shi Sheng was standing in the middle of the desert. The hot wind and sand whistled across her face mercilessly. Shi Sheng wiped his face. F***ck, how infuriating. What the hell was this place? Even though Chaoyang City was already frozen 3 feet deep, the sun was still shining brightly in this godforsaken place. She found some things from the original owner's information. She took the things she had stored elsewhere. There was a map inside. On the map, the ancient tomb of Longxing Mountain and the places where the stone tablets were found formed a square on the flat map. And the place she was at now was the center of the square. Don't ask her why she was here. She didn't know either. This clue was given by the system after she obtained the golden dragon seal. Do my ass. I don't want to do it. I want to go home and eat melon seeds, watch movies, and dig holes. Shi Sheng took out the iron sword, jumped on the iron sword and prepared to leave. Host. Can you not be so stubborn? My heart is so tired. If you don't do this side task, you will fail. Your points will be deducted. When I go back, I will share all your privileges. Deduct it if you can. When the host is fearless, it is really scary. Shi Sheng braved the wind and sand and arrived at the edge of the desert. As soon as she landed on the ground, a few off-road vehicles drove over from the cracked road in front of her. The bumps were so bad that it felt like the people inside were going to be retarded. The vehicles quickly arrived in front of her and the people in the vehicles got off. The first person Shi Shang saw was Su Nianji. Su Nianji. Why is it this damn pervert again? Xiao Bei. The pervert Su Nianji was waving excitedly at Shi Sheng. Oru came down from behind, knocked him unconscious and stuffed him into the car. Young master was easily agitated when he saw this person. It was better to let him calm down. Shi Shang. As always, he is honest. I like it. Oru closed the car door and walked towards Shi Sheng. Miss Wen, why are you here? Although he and Su Nianji did not go to Huajinyuan, they had heard that this person had snatched the golden dragon seal from there. Why was she here alone now? Shi Shang answered casually, to relax. Oh. Are you sure you want to relax and not escape? Why did you bring that pervert here? And so many people. There were more than 100 people in the convoy behind them. Miss Wan, please watch your words. How was his young master a pervert? Oru took a deep breath. The archaeologists behind us have deciphered something from the transparent stone statue. They think that this place may give them the answer. Young master likes to go to strange places. He had no choice. Good luck. Don't die in there. Shi Shang walked to the side and made way for them. Oru frowned slightly. Miss Wan, what do you know? It could not be a coincidence that she was here. Shi Shang answered quickly, I don't know. Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. Oh. The desert was right in front of them. The convoy did not enter immediately. Thus, while Oru and Shi Shang were talking, the others had already gotten out of the car and started setting up tents. Some people looked at them curiously, but most of them buried their heads in their work. These people were all immersed in their own world. Only when they encountered something they were interested in would they reveal different emotions. Miss Wan, are you leaving? Why else would you wait for a sandstorm? Oh. Would it kill him to speak properly? Oru could not continue the conversation, so he stopped talking. He exchanged a few polite words with Shi Shang and returned to the car. Shi Shang walked past the convoy. These people had the best equipment on the market. Some of them were excited, while others were worried. When Shi Shang approached the back of the car, a car door opened. A man got out of the car. When he saw her, he was shocked for a moment. Then, he looked at her cautiously, but he did not take out his gun. He had sneaked into this convoy. He could not expose himself. Wow, your undercover business has expanded to the wilderness. Shi Shang's handsome face was slightly lifted. Zhang Qing's scalp went numb. He quickly looked around. Fortunately, no one was around. Why are you here? Countless people were looking for her, but she had sneaked here alone. To relax. Shi Shang's answer was as untrustworthy as usual. ## today's pear blossom ticket ## Happy Lantern Festival everyone ## recommend a wave of gifts # below is the Valentine's Day event. Please pay attention. Chapter 1021. Zhang Qing felt helpless too. He couldn't catch her with his current status. He made sure that there was no one around and took a few steps forward. He lowered his voice and said, The item is still with you, right? Yes. Shi Shang nodded. It's dangerous for you to have it. You should return it. Shi Shang tilted her head and said calmly, Return it to who? The museum. Zhang Qing said, It belongs to the National Museum. Someone stole it and auctioned it off. It belongs to the country. You shouldn't take it away. Oh. She didn't want to do this task anymore. She couldn't hand it over to the country. I have a condition. If you agree to it, I'll return it to you. Zhang Qing's face lit up. What are your conditions? Do you remember Pei Yi and the woman beside him in Huajinyuan? Zhang Qing frowned slightly. Yes. How could he not remember the heir of the Pei family? The Pei family had retired from the entertainment circle a long time ago. Now, they were a multinational corporation. Pei Yi was the only son of the Pei family. Kill the two of them and I'll return the item to you. It was worth it to use a prop that she didn't need in exchange for the lives of the male and female leads. Although the ending might be different from what she had imagined. No way. Jiang Qing refused immediately. As a police officer, how could she kill people? Oh, there are many people who want it. I can give it to anyone. There was always a market for good things. Jiang Qing was so angry that he wanted to cry. What kind of person was this? You went through so much trouble to get it in exchange for 2 lives? The corner of Shishang's lips lifted slightly. I am now. Then what did you want to do before this? You can't give it to others. You can make other requests. I'll apply to the higher-ups for you. But it's impossible to exchange people for it. Okay. Shishang suddenly nodded generously. Jiang Qing thought that she had changed her mind. Who knew that her next sentence would make his heart sink to the bottom? Then I'll exchange it for 3 billion. Why don't you go and steal it? Although he didn't know why the higher-ups valued it so much, it was definitely worth less than 3 billion yuan. Can you change it to another one? That was simply impossible. I gave it to someone else. Jiang Qing took a deep breath. You're going against the whole country. Even if you give it to someone else, do you think you can still live here? I can go abroad. International won't let you go. Do you want to live in fear for the rest of your life? Jiang Qing advised. Think about your family and friends. They will be worried about you. If you hand it over now, I can guarantee that I won't make things difficult for you. I'm all alone. I have no family or friends. Jiang Qing. This was F*King embarrassing. Nothing was going to work. Jiang Qing scratched his head. Why do you want Pei Ye's life? I don't like him. You want to kill him just because you don't like him. That's enough. Why are you not happy? I just don't like him. Why do I need a reason? Do you need a reason when you don't like him? Shishang dug her ears. Can you make the decision? If not, I'm leaving. Jiang Qing. No matter what condition he proposed, the higher-ups wouldn't agree. One was 3 billion yuan, and the other was 2 lives. Shishang shook her head and took 2 steps forward. She paused and turned her head to threaten him. Don't try to steal it secretly. You're in Huajinyuan too. You should know what I'm capable of. I'm the successor of a secluded cultivation sect. Offending me won't end well. Jiang Qing was dumbfounded. A secluded cultivation sect? Was there such a sect in this era? But then he thought about Shishang's behavior that day. It seemed possible. Maybe, this explanation made sense. Little Jiang, why haven't you come down for so long? Suddenly, someone shouted from the car door. It was the sound of the car door being pulled open. Seeing no one, the person started shouting again. Little Jiang, where have you been? Here. Jiang Qing immediately responded. When he turned around, the girl who was standing in front of him just a moment ago had disappeared. Jiang Qing quickly ran to an open space, but he couldn't see her within a few meters. Could it be that she was a cultivator who only existed in novels or TV shows? Shishang sat on the sword and flew aimlessly. Host, when did you become the successor of a secluded cultivation sect? Why didn't it know about this setting? Just now. Could you be any more ridiculous? Damn it. You're the only one in that sect, right? I can support a sect by myself. I'm capable, good-looking, and pretentious. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Beep beep beep. The system was startled by the sudden sound. What's that sound? Alarm. I know about the alarm. I'm asking why it's ringing on my side. What on earth did you do to me? Shishang rubbed his face. The male and female leads have appeared. I want Jingjing. Don't ask me who Jingjing is. How on earth did she find this function among all the other useless functions set by the master? Beep beep beep. Could it be turned off? Beep beep beep. It's so annoying. Unable to turn it off. Please try again with higher permissions. The system felt that this was simply ironic. When it was showing off in the past, it had never imagined that one day it would be treated like this. Shi Shang took out the tablet. There was a map on it, and there were 2 red dots on the map. These 2 red dots were rapidly moving in her direction. Host, can you not use my function? The system resigned itself to its fate. It could only pray that its master would come online quickly. You won't give me a newbie gift, and you won't let me find it myself? This kind of function was standard in fast-forward novels. Why didn't the host forget about the newbie gift? I said there's no gift. There's none. There's none. There's none. The system has been turned off. The map on the tablet suddenly disappeared, and a pop-up box popped up. Hey! This stupid system was too strong. It even dared to forcefully go offline. This kind of useless function had an even more useless setting. It required the system to be online to use it. He didn't understand what the system's retarded master was thinking. Shi Shang rubbed his chin and pondered. It seemed that he had to add a forced activation function. This was a bit difficult, so he still had to think about it. Wait until he figured it out and took it for himself. He would tear it apart in a matter of minutes. Shi Shang lowered his head and looked down. There were a few black dots in the distance that were closing in. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little fairy. Daughter, what do you do when you're bored? Shi Shang. Feng Ci. Little fairy. Can't you be a bit more pure? Except for Feng Ci? Shi Shang. Eating melon seeds, playing games, and watching movies. Little fairy. Can't you be a bit more ambitious? Shi Shang. Thinking. Think about how to take the system and tear it down. System. Manual goodbye. Chapter 1022. Shi Shang looked at the convoy passing below her. She suddenly turned around and followed behind them. How can I miss out on a good show? I've been watching dramas for 100 years. When Pei Ye's team met the convoy in front of them, the atmosphere was tense. After some negotiation, they reached an agreement and decided to move together. They rested at the edge of the desert for a day. When everyone was in their best condition, they entered the desert. The desert was filled with yellow sand. The sun was scorching, and there was no green in sight. It was fine at the beginning, but the further they went, the worse the condition of the convoy became. Shi Shang sat on the iron sword most of the time. Sometimes, she would go down and walk for a while. She said it was a good balance between work and rest. In fact, she felt that it was not safe to be on the sand because the wind was too strong. After 6 days, the convoy encountered a sandstorm. The huge convoy was reduced by 1/3. They lost a lot of food and water, and their vehicles were damaged. Shi Shang looked at the convoy in front of her. She fanned herself with a fan. It was so hot. It was dangerous to watch a good show. Why didn't she have a portable cooler in her pocket? Bang! Shi Shang's body quivered reflexively. Which idiot would play with guns for no reason? Bang! 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 The continuous gunshots echoed in the desert. Shi Shang looked at the convoy in the distance. It was very chaotic. Many people were looking in the same direction. Suddenly, a huge tail stretched out from the car and wrapped around it. The car was deformed instantly. There seemed to be someone inside, and there was a high-pitched scream. It was a python. For them to encounter such a thing, they could be considered quite unlucky. Shi Shang wanted to eat melon seeds, but the weather was not suitable. She could only eat some fruits that she did not like. It could at least replenish her energy. The python's attack was very strong. Normal bullets had no effect on it. Perhaps they felt that they were no match for the python, so they drove away. The archaeological team had been in the car. When they shouted to retreat, the archaeological team immediately stepped on the accelerator and drove away. In the end, there were only 2 cars left. Pei Ye's men, Sun Yanji, and Oru were all involved. Even if the 2 cars were filled with Pei Ye's men, they wouldn't be able to fit them all. Pei Ye had more people, and Oru had to protect Sun Yenji. How could they compete with them? In the end, the 2 of them, along with a few others, were abandoned in the desert. Facing the python, everyone's faces were pale. Young master, run. Oru pushed Sun Yenji in a safe direction. Sun Yenji frowned and dragged the Oru towards the python. Young master. Oru cried out in alarm. Were they going to throw their lives away? The python had just been enraged, and now it was in a state of irritation. As long as it saw a living person, it would attack. In the sandstorm, the people running away were as insignificant as ants. Sun Yenji was very fast, and the python was too big to hurt them so easily. His target was the rock behind the python. There was a narrow gap there that could allow people to hide. However, the python would not allow them to tease it. It quickly gave up on the others and focused on attacking them. Seeing the rock getting closer, the python's tail suddenly wrapped around Oru and pulled him back. Sun Yenji was pulled back, but he did not let go of Oru. He was dragged to the ground and slid forward for a distance. Young master, let go. Oru wanted to shake Sun Yenji off. Sun Yenji ignored him. He quickly took out a scalpel and passed it to Oru. The end of the tail. Oru gritted his teeth, took the scalpel, and stabbed it into the python's tail that was wrapped around him. Even bullets could not penetrate the python's tail, but it was very fragile. Ah Wu exerted his strength and the entire scalpel sank into it. He stirred it fiercely twice. The python was in pain. It hissed and let go of him. The rock, which was already very close, was now a little further away. Sun Yenji pulled Oru up and ran towards the rock again. The python swung its tail in the distance. A few seconds later, it rushed towards them again. When they reached the rock, the python also arrived. Oru reached out and pushed Sun Yenji in. The python's tail hit again and directly slapped Oru to the rock next to the gap. Poof! Oru's body fell softly in front of the gap. He watched the python's tail hit again, and the light was getting dimmer. At the critical moment, his body was violently pulled by someone. His tail hit the sand, and the entire gap was covered by flying sand. The temperature in the desert was very low at night. During the day, people wanted to strip naked, and at night, they wanted to dress like a ball. If a person could survive in this temperature for a night, he or she must be strong enough. Shi Shang sat on the iron sword and watched the python torture the rock. She licked her dry lips and held her chin, waiting for the python to leave. This thing had been tormenting the rock from day to night, and it had no intention of leaving. What kind of deep hatred did it have? Could this thing be eaten? Shi Shang did not know why she thought about eating. She touched her stomach. She had not eaten meat since she came here. She had been eating sour fruits all day long, and her stomach had never been full. She had other dry food, but in this situation, it would be strange if she could eat it. That fruit contained spiritual energy. Even if it tasted bad, it was undeniably the best food. Shi Shang looked at the python, and her eyes lit up. Such a big snake must have a place to eat, right? Pythons should not be poisonous. Sun Yenji was a little desperate. He thought that the python would leave when it could not come in, but it was still outside and had no intention of leaving. Oru had been unconscious since he was dragged in. The temperature was too low, and he only had a t-shirt on. There was no way he could keep Oru warm. Oru, don't die. Ah Wu had been by his side since he was in middle school. He knew that Ah Wu was sent by the old man at home. Sometimes, he would feel annoyed. He felt that Ah Wu was always snitching to the old man, causing him to be scolded badly by the old man. He even ruined several of his experiments. Because he liked things different from ordinary people, he had no friends. Everyone thought he was a monster, and no one was willing to talk to him. He was the only one who was willing to talk to him. He was his only friend. Young master. Sun Yenji looked at Oru. Oru, you're awake? Oru's face showed a trace of gentleness. His lips moved. Young master. You can escape by yourself. With the young master's ability, escaping was not a problem. We go and come back together every time. Su Nianji lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, I won't leave unless you're dead. Young master, Su Nianji threatened again. If you dare to kill yourself, I'll wait for death here. Oru knew how stubborn Su Nianji was. He could only suppress that thought. For the young master, he had to try his best to survive. Chapter 10:23. The python was making all kinds of noises outside, and the two of them could only stare at each other in the narrow gap. Young master, is there no sound outside? Oru looked at the narrow gap, and the sound suddenly disappeared. Did it leave? Su Nianji moved his frozen legs and carefully crawled to the gap to look outside. The light outside was weak, and the whole desert was hazy. There seemed to be wolf howling further away, but it was vague and unreal. Su Nianji observed for a while and did not see any trace of the python. He turned to Oru and said, It's gone. I'll go out and take a look. There was a car outside that was damaged by the python, and there was food and cotton clothes inside. He had to get them. Young master, it might not have gone far. I'm not as weak as you think. Su Nianji suddenly thought of something and was a little unhappy. He could have dodged the python by himself. Oru could not move, and could only watch as Su Nianji crawled out of the gap. Su Nianji took out his spare scalpel and held it in his hand. He carefully looked around. The python was gone, and the car was not far away. He carefully approached it and found food and water inside. Su Nianji took the things and walked back. When he was close to the gap, he glanced over the rock and his body suddenly froze. Half of the python's body was hanging on the rock, and its bell-sized eyes were staring at him. After looking at the python for a while, he realized that something was wrong. It did not move at all, like a statue. Su Nianji waited for a while. He tried to move, but the python was still in the same position. Its eyes were open, but it did not move, which could only mean that it was dead. A fragrance drifted over, and Su Nianji's stomach, which had not eaten for a long time, growled. Someone killed the python. This was the thought that flashed through Su Nianji's mind. Su Nianji followed the scent and bypassed the rocks. A ball of fire leaped into his eyes. A slender figure was sitting cross-legged on the ground. In front of her was roasted meat that had already turned yellow. Xiao Bei. Su Nianji looked at her blankly. Oru said that she had gone back. Why was she here? Shi Shang looked up at him. At this time, Su Nianji looked a little embarrassed. Probably because of the cold, his whole body was trembling slightly. He was not as irritable as before and looked a little pitiful. However, you killed the python? Can I dissect its body? Shi Shang. The beginning was not important at all. The latter was the most important. Bao Bao, finally understood something. Even if a pervert is battered and exhausted, he will not forget his original profession. What kind of grudge did he have with the corpse that he wouldn't let it go even after it was dead? Fortunately, he knew to ask for her opinion instead of directly attacking with a knife. Su Nianji moved Oru over. With warm clothes and a fire, Oru's condition was better. Su Nianji ran to dissect the python while Oru and Shi Shang stayed by the fire. Oru looked at the fire. The burning wood was very strange. It emitted a fragrance. It was not very strong, but mixed with the fragrance of the meat, it was exceptionally pleasant. It was strange to see such a bonfire in the middle of the desert. Miss Wan, didn't you leave? This was what surprised Oru the most. Why did she suddenly appear here? Shi Shang retorted, Can't I come back? Oh. He didn't mean anything else. He was just curious. Can't they talk nicely? Here. Shi Shang suddenly passed the browned and fragrant meat to Oru. Miss Wan? Why are you suddenly so kind? Shi Shang spread his hands. I'm afraid it's poisonous. Oh. You're giving it to me if it's poisonous. Su Nianji ran over and took the meat from Shi Shang's hands. He directly put it into his mouth. Young master. All was shocked. He wanted to stand up and stop Sun Yenji, but it affected his injuries. He was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. Sun Yenji took a few bites and commented, "It's delicious, but it's a little bland." Oru ignored the pain and stared at Sun Yenji nervously. He was afraid that the poison would take effect and kill him in the next second. "Why are you looking at me?" Sun Yenji stared back. He thought for a while and explained, "This is a python. It's not poisonous. Don't you have any common sense?" "Young master, this python is much bigger than a normal python. Who knows if it's a mutated one?" "Yes, I just checked its body. It's not poisonous," Sun Yenji replied calmly. Oh. He was so angry that he wanted to resign. Sun Yenji squatted next to Shi Shang and ate the meat. "This is the best I've eaten in the past few days. Xiaobei, it's so good to have you. Haha, is there a corpse because I'm here?" Shi Shang quietly took a piece of meat and started eating. Oru could only watch the two of them eat. Hey, have you forgotten about me?" "Host, why are you sharing food with them?" "The system secretly went online." "I don't know." "You don't know? Who are you kidding?" Shi Shang bit into the meat. The tip of her tongue was full of the fragrance of the meat. She chewed twice and glanced at Sun Yenji and Oru. It was probably because Sun Yenji did not abandon Oru in the end. Oru and Sun Yenji argued about whether they should go out or continue moving forward. Oru naturally insisted on going out. Sun Yenji was not happy, but Sun Yenji agreed to Oru's suggestion in the end. But at this time, they realized that they did not have a car's GPS or map. They were surrounded by yellow sand. After a night, the traces they left behind were long gone. How could they go out? In the end, the two of them could only follow Shi Shang. After all, she was very powerful and saved their lives. It was better to follow her than to fight alone. Because they did not have a car, they could only move forward on foot. Sun Yenji also had to carry Oru, who could not walk. Although Sun Yenji was a young master, he had been running around with Oru all these years, so his physical strength was not bad. But carrying weights for a long time, no matter how strong a person was, would be able to bear it. "Young master, put me down." Oru felt very guilty. Sun Yenji gritted his teeth. Sweat flowed down from his forehead. "I'm fine." He looked up at Shi Shang, who had already walked far ahead, and sped up to catch up. "We've been through so many scares but not dangers. This time will be fine too." "Young master, I was not injured before." The honest boy refuted. Sun Yenji was angry. "Shut up." Oh. He was not wrong. Although it was dangerous before, he had never been injured like this. He could not move at all. Oru was silent for a while. "Young master, if I die, you must live." Sun Yenji replied without thinking, "If you die, I'll dissect you." Oru knew that he would say this, and he would really do it. So in order to not be dissected, Oru decided to live well. Sun Yenji caught up with Shi Shang. It was not that he had sped up, but that Shi Shang had slowed down. In the desert ahead, there was a vague black object that was half hidden. It was the car of the convoy. But now, it was half hidden under the yellow sand. The convoy must have encountered something. Chapter 1024. In the eerie corridor, Sun Yenji was supporting Ah Wu. On both sides were vines that were strangely twisted together. There was a kind of soft-bodied insect crawling on them. Its tail was like a small lantern that emitted a flickering green light. If you didn't look at the soft, white insects, which were 3 thick insects, it would have been a pretty sight. Sun Yenji's eyes lit up when he saw the insects. If he wasn't supporting Oru, he would have rushed over to study them. The story of why they appeared here started a few hours ago. Shi Shang was walking along the same route as the convoy in front of them. Along the way, they saw corpses and equipment. But just a few hours ago, they found a strange city in the desert. It was strange because it was intact. It was almost impossible to find a city like this in the desert. But it really existed. They found 2 cars outside the city and some traces of activity, but no people. All the equipment in the cars was gone. They must have entered the city. Shi Shang entered the city without hesitation. Oru and Sun Yanji had to follow him. Just as they entered the city, before they had time to check their surroundings, there was a sudden earthquake. The whole city began to sink, and endless yellow sand poured in from all sides. The last thing they saw was a flash of cold light. When they woke up, they were lying in the eerie corridor. Shi Shang stood not far away, poking at the bugs on the leaves with her sword. They saw with their own eyes how those soft bugs opened their mouths, revealed their sharp teeth, and bit the sword. Then, as if they had eaten something disgusting, they quickly loosened their mouths, rolled into a ball, and rolled off the leaves, disappearing into the lush leaves. The corridor was not wide. It could only allow 1 person to pass. If they were not careful, they would bump into the insects on the leaves. Sun Yanji and Oru struggled to walk, but Shi Shang walked in front of them as if he was walking on flat ground. If they couldn't pass, he would just cut them. So, not only did they have to pay attention to the sides, but they also had to pay attention to their feet. How long is this? Sun Yanji was a little irritable. They had walked for so long, but they still hadn't gotten out of this eerie place. Young master, be careful. Oru pulled Sun Yanji. Behind him, an insect opened its mouth and bit nothing, falling directly from the leaf to the ground. Sun Yanji suddenly took out his scalpel and stabbed at the insect on the ground. Crack! A crisp voice rang out in the quiet corridor. The scalpel in Sun Yanji's hand was bitten off by the insect. It opened its mouth and was about to bite Sun Yanji's hand. Do you think your scalpel is a diamond? Shi Shang, who had walked far away, suddenly came back and stabbed the insect with his iron sword from the side. Sun Yanji looked at the insect in confusion, then looked at Shi Shang's sword. Looking at the materials, they were all about the same. Why were the bugs unable to bite through hers, but the bugs that bit him were crunchy? Shi Shang withdrew his sword. His eyes were calm and almost indifferent. Continue if you want to die. Young master. He couldn't even knock him out now. How frustrating. Sun Yanji looked at Shi Shang and quickly took out a transparent bottle. He picked up the insect that was stabbed to death by Shi Shang and put it into the bottle. Shi Shang was speechless. Such a dedicated pervert. I'm impressed. He deserved to die. Shi Shang turned around and continued to walk forward. Splash! The clear sound of running water was getting closer. At the end of this strange corridor, there was a flat protruding ground. The plants were left in the corridor and didn't extend out. In front of the flat ground was a small stream. The protruding ground was already in the stream. The stream was 1 step higher than the other and extended upwards. Shi Shang shone the light at the top. It was pitch black and he couldn't see anything. It was the same as the corridor behind her. The corridor ended here. There was a path on the other side of the stream. The protruding ground was about 5 meters away from the other side. The water in the stream was very shallow, not even knee-deep. It seemed easy to pass through. Through the light, she could see the bottom. There was something like a cobblestone under it. Shi Shang poked it with her sword, and the cobblestone suddenly came to life. It turned into a long worm and quickly wrapped itself around the iron sword. Perhaps it felt uncomfortable. It let go of the iron sword and swung it a few times in the water. Then it disappeared into the darkness. Shi Shang was speechless. He knew it couldn't be so harmless. As a tomb raider, how could it be so easy to pass through this dangerous place? Every step was dangerous and every step was poisonous. Ah! A scream came from behind. Shi Shang stood up and looked back. A group of people was coming from the other side. The scream stopped them. Voices rang out in the darkness. It's the archaeological team, Oru whispered. They walked along one end of the corridor and didn't know where the other end was. Obviously, those people came from the other side. There's someone in front. The archaeological team noticed Oru and Sun Yanji. A few beams of light shot over, shining on Oru and Su Nianji. Professor Su? The person opposite them called out hesitantly. Is that Professor Su? Su Nianji ignored them. Oru had no choice but to respond on his behalf. They didn't know what was going on. It was better not to make too many enemies. The archaeological team only came over after they received an answer. There were more than 10 people in total. All of them were in a sorry state. Some of them sat on the ground and panted. This place was a nightmare. They had never seen anything dangerous before. Are you the only ones left? Su Nianji didn't care, but Oru had to understand the situation. We got separated from the rest. The archaeological team's representative wiped off his cold sweat. He looked exhausted. But Mr. Pei is behind us. Someone on Pei Ye's side had been bitten and couldn't move forward. They had left first. At this thought, the archaeological team's representative immediately turned around to look for the person who had screamed. Professor Feng, how are you? There was a bite mark on the back of Professor Feng's hand. It was red and swollen. It felt like someone had poured salt water on the wound. Professor Feng was in so much pain that he couldn't speak. Someone was squatting beside him, disinfecting him and stopping the pain. However, it was useless. Kill me, kill me. Ah. Professor Feng couldn't stand the pain. He grabbed the person beside him. Kill me, it hurts. Professor Feng, bear with it. You'll be fine. The archaeological team's representative comforted Professor Feng even though he wasn't sure if Professor Feng would be fine. Professor Feng's wound was getting more and more swollen. Not only was it painful, but it was also extremely itchy. Professor Feng couldn't help but scratch it. The wound was a mess of flesh and blood. Seeing that Professor Feng was getting out of control, the archaeological team's representative immediately shouted to the people beside him, "Two of you, grab Professor Feng." Shi Shang supported himself with his sword and watched them struggle. After a while, he said softly, "I advise you to kill him." "What nonsense are you talking about?" The archaeological team's representative glared at Shi Shang. Seeing that it was a new face, he couldn't help but get even angrier. "Who are you?" Chapter 1025. She is young master's friend, Oru quickly said. The archaeological team's representative immediately expressed his displeasure. What kind of friend does Professor Su have? This is a matter of life and death. How can she be so cold-blooded? Does she have any humanity? Oh. You haven't seen her more cold-blooded. How can you say that? Su Nianji suddenly shouted loudly. Apologize to Xiao Bei. Oru did not expect Su Nianji to speak so suddenly and angrily. He was also stunned like the archaeological team's representative. The archaeological team's representative reacted and became even more displeased. Professor Su. Su Nianji grabbed him by the collar and said through gritted teeth, "Apologize right now, right now." Young master. Oru endured the pain in his body and wanted to pull Su Nianji back, but Su Nianji had already taken out a sharp knife and pointed it at the archaeological team's representative's neck. The sharp and cold knife made the archaeological team's representative's expression change. When Su Nianji joined the archaeological team, someone warned him not to provoke Su Nianji. Otherwise, he would do anything. When they were in the team, Su Nianji was with Oru most of the time. If there was a disagreement, Oru would knock him out. He thought that this person was very capable, but now, he realized that the warning was not just for show. I'm sorry. The archaeological team's representative immediately apologized. He did not want to die in the hands of humans before he could be killed by those strange creatures. Su Nianji pushed him away and spat. Oh. What was wrong with young master again? Shi Shang glanced at Su Nianji. Su Nianji pursed his lips and looked at her with a complicated expression. After looking at her for 3 seconds, Su Nianji turned to help Oru up. Shi Shang. Why did he feel that this pervert was up to something big? Just as Professor Feng was screaming in pain, Pei Ye's people arrived. Pei Yi saw Shi Shang first. After all, there was no one at the spot where she was standing. Behind her was the stream with the background music. It was hard not to notice her. It was her again. Why was she haunting them like a ghost? Pei Yi wished he could shoot Shi Shang to death right now, but he held himself back in the end. Wen Bei. Yi Yao's already pale face became even paler. Why are you here? The things that had happened to her in the tomb were all because of her. Why can't I be here? Shi Shang looked at her with a half-smile. Is this your family's restaurant? Why are you charging entrance fees? These people's lines were hopeless. Couldn't they ask something new? The first thing they asked when they met was why are you here, and why are you here? If I told you, you'd be scared to death. I followed you here. Yi Yao grabbed the hem of her clothes and looked at her gloomily. There was a faint hatred in her eyes. Pei Yi patted Yi Yao's shoulder and pulled her into his arms, blocking Yi Yao's line of sight. Ah! Kill me! Kill me! Professor Feng's scream broke the strange atmosphere. What happened to him? Panko asked quickly. He was bitten by those things, the archaeological team representative said with difficulty. Panko was shocked. What? He was bitten. Hurry up and kill him. The archaeological team representative looked at Panko fiercely. Panko said anxiously, those insects seem to have sent their eggs into the human body when they bite him. The eggs will hatch very quickly and eat the human flesh. They will grow rapidly and reproduce until the entire body is eaten. Then the insects will crawl out. The number of insects is definitely beyond your imagination. Also, their attack power is much more powerful than those on Leaf. They had seen it with their own eyes. In a short period of time, that person was only left with his skin. The archaeological team representative knew that one of them had been bitten and would not lie to him. But just now, that woman also said that she wanted him to kill Professor Feng. Did she already know? Since she knew, why didn't she say it? People were like this. If you reminded them kindly, they would think that you had bad intentions. But when something really happened and they found out that it was really the case, they would blame you instead. Why didn't you say it clearly? Shi Shang had no intention of reminding them. He just didn't want the matter to blow up. Su Nianji moved to Shi Shang's side. His eyes were shining with curiosity as usual. Xiao Bei, how did you know? Know what? Shi Shang had an innocent look on her face. She did not know anything. But according to the usual routine, there must be something wrong. Those insects. I don't know. Su Nianji choked. If you don't know, then why did you suggest to kill him? He was too annoying. Su Nianji. Oh. He suddenly realized that his young master did not seem to be so difficult to please. This person was the one who was difficult to please. In the end, the archaeological team representative killed Professor Feng because the consequences that Panko said and Professor Feng's screams were too painful. Throw him inside. Panko continued to command. That's not necessary. Professor Feng is already dead. The archaeological team representative stopped Panko. Professor Feng was a very nice person. Everyone in the archaeological team liked him. It's over when those insects crawl out. Panko continued to explain. After he dies, the insects will continue to reproduce. You don't want us living people to be implicated, right? There was a strange silence. In the end, Professor Feng was naturally thrown back into the corridor entangled with vines. After solving this matter, everyone's mood was a little heavy. They looked at each other. They still had to move forward and leave this strange place alive. A group of people gathered together to discuss. We have to go to the opposite side. There's a path there. Someone went to the stream to take a look. This stream is very shallow. There's nothing in it. We should be able to go straight. What if there's a problem with the water? There's nothing safe in here. It's better not to act rashly. It was a desert above. It was very strange that there was water here. But this place is too far away. We can't jump over. At this point, everyone was at their wits' end. In the end, Someone couldn't help but stand up. "We can't go on like this." "I'll try." The others were silent. That person didn't say much either. He walked directly to the edge. The others followed behind him silently. Sher Shang stood at the edge, holding his sword and looking indifferently at the person entering the water. There weren't many creatures that looked like pebbles in the water. He was careful not to step on them. Plus, he was lucky. He didn't step on them and reached the opposite side safely. "It's safe." He waved at the opposite side. The others heaved a sigh of relief and began to prepare to enter the water. The second person was more careful. He didn't step on them and passed safely. However, an accident happened to the third person. Perhaps the water was too cold. After entering the water, his foot cramped. He lost his balance and stepped on a pebble creature next to him. Just like before, it quickly grew and wrapped around the person's ankle. The person felt pain in his ankle and lost his balance. His whole body fell into the water. The pebble creatures nearby were instantly activated and wrapped around his limbs. ## today's viburnum flavored ticket #, Liangsheng Shi Liangsheng Shi. Chapter 1026. It happened so suddenly that before anyone could react, the person in the water had stopped struggling. The color of blood spread from the clear water. More and more long worms swam over from afar and wrapped around his body, forming a black shape. "What is that?" After a long time, someone said with lingering fear. Why were the two people in front fine, but the person behind was in trouble? No one knew what the long black worm that was wrapped around the corpse was. "Oh, let's catch one and see," Su Nianji suggested eagerly. "Young master, I can't catch it." He was a patient, okay? He still needed someone to help him. How could he catch it? "I'll do it myself." Su Nianji let go of Oru. Oru quickly grabbed him. "Young master, please don't cause trouble." Splash. Suddenly, a black shadow fell in front of Su Nianji. Water droplets fell from the sky with a faint smell of blood. Ah! Yi Yao was standing not far from Su Nianji. When she saw the thing on the ground, she immediately exclaimed and successfully attracted everyone's attention. She pointed at the ground with trembling fingers. Everyone looked over, and they were all shocked. They retreated one after another. "Who brought that thing up here?" The long worm on the ground did not move. It seemed to be dead. Sher Shang swore that she did not kill it. She just brought it up. As for why it did not move, maybe it was pretending to be dead? Among the group, Su Nianji was the happiest. He ignored Oru's obstruction and walked to the long worm. He reached out to catch it. Oru rushed over and hugged Su Nianji's waist. He could not stabilize himself and the two of them fell to the ground. The long worm, which was not moving just now, suddenly twisted and slithered like a snake. It wrapped around Oru's thigh. Just as the long worm was about to touch Oru, a sharp whistling sound came from the sky. A cold light flashed and the long worm on the ground was cut in half. Ah Wu's anxious heart relaxed. Su Nianji got up from the ground and quickly pulled the Oru up. He said awkwardly, "I thought Xiao Bei killed it." Oru supported his old waist and said earnestly, "Young master, even if it's dead, you can't use your hands to grab it." "Idiots are hopeless," Sher Shang interjected. Oru glared at him. "If you didn't pick up the food, would the young master have almost been bitten?" He asked for it himself. "Is it wrong for I to get it for you?" "Oh, when the young master was courting death, you were very helpful. But when it came to saving a life, you were not as helpful. Was this woman here to harm the young master?" Ah Wu held himself back. It wasn't the first time Su Nianji had done something stupid, so he decided not to argue with Sher Shang. Even if she didn't bring this thing up, with the young master's personality, he would have found a way to get one. Su Nianji was not his young master if he didn't cause trouble. The people on the other side were dumbfounded. After a while, they focused on the long worm on the ground. They didn't know if it was dead or alive. They carefully moved closer to observe it. Why does this thing look like an earthworm? It was an enlarged version of an earthworm. The two ends were very sharp, and they couldn't see its facial features. Unlike an earthworm, its body was very smooth. What was this? The long worm was dead. This was the conclusion they came to after studying it for a while. But now was not the time to study the worm. The problem was how to cross it. The water was filled with these long worms. They seemed to have been activated. They swam around in the water, and it made people's scalps tingle. Is there anything on your side that can be used? The representative of the archaeological group asked the two people who had passed by. The two people were also shocked by the accident just now. When they heard the representative's words, they came back to their senses and quickly shone their lights around. No, there's nothing here. Someone pointed at the walkway behind them. The vines over there can be used, but there are worms on them too. The vines were very thick. If they were woven together, they could build a path on the water's surface. Since someone suggested this idea, everyone naturally thought about it and ran to observe the worms. She has a sword. She can get these worms and their leaves down. Those people were discussing. For some reason, someone suddenly pointed at Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng, how did I get shot while lying down? The people on the other side whispered for a while. Someone stood up as a representative. Miss, can I borrow your sword? They had guns and military knives, but if they wanted to get rid of all the worms, they would need a long sword like Shi Sheng's. No, the person advised. There's a higher chance that we can cross if we work together. If you continue like this, we won't be able to cross. Then you can all die here. Wenbei, can you cross? Panko stood up. Shi Sheng nodded confidently. Of course I can. At this distance, it would be easy for her to cross. Panko sneered. Ha, what can you do? Can you even fly? Shi Sheng let go of the iron sword. The iron sword swayed in the air and slowly became horizontal. Under everyone's strange gaze, the iron sword suddenly became bigger. Sword, sword, sword. Swords can fly? Did they transmigrate? Shi Sheng jumped onto the iron sword and pretended to be cool. I'll show you how I fly. Xiao Bei, bring me along. Sun Yanji hugged his thigh at the right time and helped Aru walk towards the iron sword. Shi Sheng glanced at him and did not stop him. He let the two of them get on. The iron sword flew steadily towards the opposite side. After landing, Sun Yanji and Aru jumped down. Shi Sheng flew back and showed off in front of the group. Not only can I fly, but I can also fly back and forth. Come and hit me if you don't like it. You can't hit me. Everyone. How can there be such a person who deserves to be hit? But in reality, these people did not dare to say a word. Miss Wen, right? Please bring us over. We can pay you. I don't want to bring you over. Shi Sheng's face almost said, I don't like you, so I won't bring you over. Come and hit me if you don't like it. Miss Wan. Shi Sheng was too lazy to listen to their chatter. After showing off, he went back to the opposite side and walked up the path leading to the stream. Aru thought that Shi Sheng was going to leave. Who knew that she would walk up a little and sit on the iron sword and start eating melon seeds. She came here specifically to watch the male and female leads. They were all here. Where could she go to watch them? Oh. Why did she bring melon seeds with her? Last time she went into the tomb to eat melon seeds. This time she was eating melon seeds. How many melon seeds did she have with her? No matter how the people on the other side shouted, Shi Sheng was eating melon seeds enthusiastically and completely ignored them. With the male and female leads around, the crisis would be resolved. As cannon fodder, she only needed to eat melon seeds and watch the show. Perhaps they knew that Shi Sheng would not change his mind. In the end, those people gave up and began to think of other ways. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, are you eating melon seeds? Cherub, do you have 5 scented melon seeds? Little Fairy, yes, of course. Come and take it. Sweet Smile, Cherub, eating melon seeds, Little Fairy. Since you're eating my melon seeds, you're mine. Come and vote. Cherub, ba, ba, ba. You're actually starting to play tricks. I didn't expect you to be this kind of little fairy. Little fairy, dark face, 4 votes. Cherub. Voting reluctantly. Chapter 1027. Just as Shi Shang had expected, the female lead, Yi Yao, finally found a mechanism. A stone bridge rose from the bottom of the pool, just wide enough for people to pass through. The only dangerous thing was that the stone bridge was very slippery. Someone accidentally slipped down and ended up being entangled like a black rice dumpling. There were only a few pebbles at the bottom of the pool. Who knew where these things came from? It was scary. The team was reduced again. Someone rushed up to Shi Shang and asked, "Why didn't you bring us here?" She clearly had the ability, but she just stood by and watched. Had her conscience been eaten by dogs? Shi Shang chewed on melon seeds. "Because I'm cold-blooded. I had no relationship with you. Why should I bring you here? Idiot." Cold-blooded was what the archaeological team's representative had said. Now, Shi Shang was using this word to shut them up. "You're indeed cold-blooded. People like you don't deserve to live." That person was probably mad. He suddenly reached out and tried to push Shi Shang down. Shi Shang quickly got up and stood to the side. He reached out and pushed that person. That person fell straight into the pool. There was a splash. Everyone looked down at the pool. The water should be very shallow. There shouldn't be such a sound. But after that person fell, he sank straight down and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. The place where he fell was 1 level higher than the pool they had come from. It was like a terraced field. It was completely different from the pool below. "What did you do?" The archaeological team's representative rushed up to Shi Shang and looked down. The water had returned to normal. He couldn't see anything. Self-defense. Shi Shang shrugged. He wanted to push I down. "Can't I fight back?" "You?" The archaeological team's representative was pulled back. This woman was a little strange. It was better not to offend her in this situation. "You'll get your retribution," the archaeological team's representative said. Shi Shang pursed his lips. "I'll get my retribution for defending myself. Is there any justice in this world?" "Fine." Justice belonged to the female lead. As cannon fodder, he didn't even have the right to choose his own life. "Ah!" The scream came from the archaeological team's representative. Shi Shang looked over and saw Su Nianji standing with him. Su Nianji stepped on the archaeological team's representative's foot and helped Otto up to Shi Shang's side. Shi Shang was speechless. What was this pervert trying to do? No, stay away from perverts. Cherish your life. It would be better to find a chance to kill him. The team was reorganized, and the best leader was chosen. This leader undoubtedly fell on Pei Ye's head. Shi Shang was naturally not part of these people's plans. They walked from the pool to the Shi Shang pool. They continued to walk up, but soon they turned back. There was no road up there. Yi Yao shone her flashlight at the opposite side. "Over there." "Heavens, don't tell me we have to go over again?" Someone hugged his head and wailed. They had lost so many people just now, how could they pass this time? There's no end to this road. How long are we going to walk like this? Why don't we try going down? The person who made the suggestion walked down for a while and turned back in disappointment. "It's the same. We have to go to the opposite side to find a path." This was a Z-shaped setup. There was a path to continue to the opposite side of the pool and then continue to walk across the pool. Moreover, the danger of each pool was different. For example, the first pool was very shallow, and the second pool was bottomless. Some people also wanted to walk across the pool, but they were in the middle of the pool, and there was no foothold at the edge of the pool. There should be a mechanism for all of them. Let's look for it. Yi Yao, who found the mechanism just now, encouraged everyone. Thus, the group started to look for the mechanism, but they couldn't find anything. Shi Shang crossed her arms and asked them with a half-smile, "Do you want to know?" "I can tell you. You know." The archaeological team's representative was suspicious. "What do you want to do?" "Oh, I want to see how many of you are still alive." Shi Shang smiled innocently, but anyone with a discerning eye could see that her smile did not reach her eyes. There was only calmness. Yi Yao raised her voice. "She's up to no good. Don't listen to her. We can definitely find the mechanism." "I didn't say that I'm up to no good." Shi Shang snorted. Even if she told them how to cross, how many of them could cross? She made it sound like they could all cross if they found the mechanism. Shi Shang's voice was not soft, and everyone present heard it. Such an honest villain was really speechless. Shi Shang turned to look at Ou and Su Nianji. She shone the flashlight in her hand on the water surface. "There are footholds in the water. You can cross by stepping on them. Who wants to go first?" The water in this pool was not very clear, and the light could not penetrate it. They had to look carefully to see the footholds that were about 1.3 meters deep. Those footholds formed a curved path in the pool. The footholds were just big enough for one person to stand on. The distance was a little big, and people with poor balance could easily miss a step. Su Nianji was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. She had no obligation to help them. He looked at the pool, and then at Ou. "Ou." He should be able to cross, but Ou could not move easily. Ou nodded slightly. "I can do it. I'll go first." Su Nianji tied the things on his body. "Young master, I'll go first." Ou pulled Su Nianji back. He was always the one who went first when there was danger. "Shut up." Su Nianji scolded Ou mercilessly. Ou raised his hand out of habit, but it did not come down. If it hit them, how were they going to cross? Su Nianji entered the water. There was a platform at the edge of the pool, and it was level with the footholds not far away. The water was submerged a little above his chest, and the water was deeper than he had expected. Su Nianji took a deep breath and carefully stepped out. The sound of the water had attracted the attention of others, and at this moment, everyone's attention was on him. The foothold was not flat, but round. This made it even harder to control his balance. Su Nianji moved slowly, and there were a few times when he almost lost his balance. Fortunately, he crossed safely. He threw the things on his body on the ground, quickly took off his clothes, and patted some parts of his body. The others did not know what was going on, and could only watch him fiddle around. When he put on his clothes again, he shouted, "There are leeches in the water, tie up your sleeves and pants." Leeches. These things suck blood. It was fine if they did not know, as they could just get rid of them. After all, the leeches would not immediately enter the body. But now that they knew, there was a psychological disturbance that made it even harder for them to pass. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy. The epic disaster movie has been released. Have you guys prepared the tickets? Cherub. Rejected. Little Fairy. Rejected. Ha ha ha. Forced to watch. Cherub. You don't want the tickets, do you? Little Fairy. Little Bird said early. Why are you carrying a small bag? Because we're going to bomb the school. Hashtag the above is pure nonsense. Please do not imitate or take it seriously. Hashtag. Chapter 1028. Ou was the second to go over. He was injured, so when he went over, the swaying was very strong. Many people thought that he would fall. But in the end, he stabilized himself and reached the other side safely. Since 2 people had passed, the rest of the people knew that this was the only way. They could only enter the water one by one. Some people didn't have enough balance and couldn't stabilize themselves. Without a doubt, they fell. This pool was very strange. No matter how good a swimmer was, they couldn't float up after falling in. It was as if something was pulling them down. Some people passed safely, while others stayed here forever. When it was Yi Yao's turn, she was not as tall as these men, so her weakness was even more obvious. To protect her, Pei Yi walked in front of her. But Yi Yao's balance was average. She almost pushed Pei Yi into the water. It was a frightening scene to watch. Shi Shang sat in mid-air eating melon seeds. Her carefree look really made people want to hit her. When they arrived, Su Nianji and Oru had almost crossed the third pool. There was a suspension bridge at the bottom of the third pool. They had to hold their breath the entire time to cross. There were some strange-looking fish swimming around the bridge. It was obvious that these fish were strange. They didn't see how Su Nianji and Oru crossed, so they could only do it themselves. But the first person to go down was attacked by the fish. In the blink of an eye, only a pile of bones was left, slowly sinking. This scene frightened the others. No one dared to go down. Wen Bei. She knows. She just directed Professor Su and the others to go over, someone said softly. As soon as she said this, someone shouted at the top of his lungs, Wen Bei, tell us, how do we get over? Shi Shang was still in the middle of the third pool. She turned to look at them and raised her eyebrows. 2, 1, 2. What? What do you mean? Are you clear? Shi Shang snorted. I told you the clue, and you want me to be responsible for decrypting it? Why don't you let I be responsible for spending your money? King retards. The retards. They studied the drawbridge for a long time. Someone suggested, look, the drawbridge is made of wooden planks. Two steps, one empty step, 2 more steps, right? Su Nianji and the others walked over. The way they walked was definitely related to how they walked, but the way they walked was still up for debate. It's also possible that he's taking 1 step out of 2. Of the 2 plans, 1 was wrong, so the first person to leave had a 50% chance of dying. Who would be willing to die? In the end, no one was willing, so they could only draw lots. The person who was selected was a member of the archaeological team. That person entered the battlefield in grief. He chose the first option. 2 steps, 1 empty step, 2 more steps. On the first step, the fish around him did not react. They swam around him, but did not have the intention to attack him. The second step was safety. Jump over a board. The third step was safety. The fourth step was safety. The fifth step. Just as his foot landed, the surrounding fishes suddenly began to attack him. Everyone could only watch as he was eaten by the fish until only his skeleton was left. The atmosphere was a little strange, but there were also people who heaved a sigh of relief. The last option was definitely correct. 2 steps, 1 empty step. However, the person who went into the water still ended up like that person. His first step was wrong. The frightened people looked at Shi Shang fiercely, unable to hide their anger. Wen Bei, are you playing with us? You misunderstood, so you're blaming me? Shi Shang spread his hands innocently, but the next second, he smiled evilly. Even if I'm playing with you, what can you do to me? The first option was 2 steps, 1 empty step, 2 more steps. There was nothing wrong with it. However, the first option was wrong. He went 2, 1, 2, 1 empty step, 2 empty steps, 1 empty step, 2 empty steps, 2 empty steps, 2 empty steps, 2 empty steps, 2 empty steps. The correct way was 2, 1, 2. After the first round, he did not need to take an empty step. He needed to take 2 more steps to reach the empty step. In other words, after the first 2 steps, he had to take a total of 4 steps. This was a small problem. Pei Yi quickly turned the corner and took the lead to enter the water. He reached the opposite side safely. Shi Shang shook his head. As expected of the male lead. The others followed Pei Yi's instructions. However, one person was too nervous and stepped on the wrong foot. He was eaten by the fish again. When it was Yi Yao's turn, there was another problem. She did not know how to swim. She had to hold her breath the whole time. How could she walk such a long distance under the water? Pei Yi could only walk back and teach Yi Yao how to hold her breath. He took her into the water and let her try to hold her breath first. When she got used to it, he took her forward. However, in the middle, Yi Yao could not hold her breath anymore and began to struggle. The sound of water splashing disturbed the surrounding fish, and they seemed to be approaching them. In a hurry, Pei Yi kissed Yi Yao and carried her across the suspension bridge. Shi Shang was dumbfounded. This was a classic plot. Classic my foot. F*ck, my dear male lead, tell I. How did you kiss the female lead and walk blindly over? This is a bug. I want to report you. You are a bug yourself. How dare you report others? Who gave you the face? There were still many pools behind them. Shi Shang led Sun Yanji and Oru to pass. The people behind them were exhausted. After all, Sun Yanji and the others took the safe path. They had to try it themselves. Yi Yao, the female lead, was a burden. Pei Yi was also exhausted. After passing the last pool, there were only 15 people left in the team. At the end of the last pool was a huge rock. The rock disappeared into the darkness at the top. The water flowed down from a hole in the rock, forming a waterfall. The path they were standing on now led to an entrance in the rock. Everyone, rest here. Panko spoke on behalf of Pei Yi. Going through so many pools had already consumed too much of their physical strength. If they rashly went in now, it would only make things worse. Even Sun Yanji and Oru were exhausted. The only one who was relaxed was Shi Sheng. Just as they were resting, the water in the pool beside them suddenly began to churn like boiling water. The lower part of the pool was slowly rising. What happened? What's going on? The pool is rising. The water level seems to be rising. Voila! Suddenly, a figure jumped out of the waterfall formed by rocks. Shi Shang appeared in front of everyone, dripping wet. She jumped off the iron sword and quickly rushed into the entrance. No one noticed when Shi Shang went into the waterfall, so no one knew what she was doing inside. However, this sudden change must have something to do with her. This was the consensus in everyone's heart. Judging from the way he was walking on the top, because it was a 2-2 cycle, he needed to take 4 steps in the middle. Chapter 1029. Shi Shang rushed into the entrance and his vision darkened as if someone had snuffed out all the light. It was so dark that he couldn't even see his own fingers. The flashlight in his hand was also dark. There was no light at all. Shi Shang shook the flashlight with all his might, but there was still no response. Damn it! Footsteps sounded behind him. The group of people had come in. All kinds of noises mixed together. Ah! It's so dark. Don't step on me. Why isn't the flashlight working? Strange. Is it broken? Why didn't you turn on the light? It's on. It's not lit up. Mine isn't lit up either. It was fine outside just now. Don't push me. Shi Shang paused for a moment, put the flashlight back, and took out the luminous pearl. The pearl's light illuminated the surroundings. There were black rocks all around. Light-absorbing minerals? Why would this thing appear here? Shi Shang thought of the big guy she had thrown outside Pei Yi. Damn it, was this really a sci-fi tomb raiding novel? I don't want to change the channel. Couldn't he just leave a single elemental in peace? Why do they have to change the channel? With the light, the people behind stopped arguing. They subconsciously looked toward the source of the light. Shi Shang immediately became the target of public criticism. A luminous pearl. It was so big, even bigger than the one in the National Museum. Come and take a look, the person standing at the entrance shouted. The people standing at the edge heard the voice and immediately looked back. They could only see the river outside. They couldn't see the path they had taken and the pools. What is this place? This was not something that could be done by humans. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't know what this place was. It was too strange. The tomb of the god of sin. Yi Yao's face looked gloomy under the light of the luminous pearl. She murmured, I saw a description in my father's notes. There are hundreds of pools and thousands of forms. The wise live and the foolish die. There is a God at the end. If you respect him, you will be rewarded. If you move, you will be rewarded. If you move, you will be rewarded. The last 4 words sounded gloomy. Most of the people present had heard of the tomb of the god of sin. Their main purpose here was to find the legendary tomb of the god of sin. Was this the tomb of the god of sin they were looking for? Shi Shang's gaze fell on the dark light-absorbing minerals. To give him a gift, Rose, a light-absorbing mineral, had a nickname. It was called a gem. That was because it was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers in front of one's face. If one stayed in its space, one would be like a ghost. Another reason was that when it was soaked in water and placed under a strong light, it would emit a magnificent color. Combining these 2 reasons, it was nicknamed the gemstone. The real scientific name was named after its main components. It was too long for Shi Shang to remember. As for that god, Shi Shang thought about the strange stone statue he had cut down in the waterfall. That thing should be a mechanism that could move horizontally. The gem was a tool to pass the game? The water level is still rising. Let's find a way out first. The water level outside was less than 2 meters away from the entrance, and it would rise soon. This place is filled with this kind of stone. I can't use the light at all. I can't see any further. Voices rang out, and all the information was fed back to Pei Yi. Their lights could not be used. The only light source in Shi Shang's hand was the night-luminescent pearl. Wen Bei, hurry up and find a way out. At this critical moment, she was still squatting on the ground to look at the stones. What was so interesting about a pile of coal? What does it have to do with me? Shi Shang picked up some gems and looked at the person calmly. How is it not your fault? If it weren't for you, would this have happened? What did you do in the waterfall? The angry voice echoed in the air for a long time. None of them touched anything. She was the only one who suddenly rushed out of the waterfall. If it wasn't her, who else could it be? Yes, I did it. What's wrong? She admitted that she had done it. The person was so angry at Shi Shang's matter-of-fact attitude that he almost had a heart attack. Then why aren't you looking for a way out? Do you want to get us all killed here? Shi Shang rolled his eyes at the person. Look for a way out? This is the end. What? This is the end, Shi Shang repeated. You've reached the end. Do you understand? Idiots. Everyone, the end of the tomb of the god of sin was a pile of coal? How do you know? There had to be a way out. How could it be the end? Impossible. Shi Shang moved the luminous pearl in a certain direction and shone it on the dark rock wall. Someone had carved a few Chinese characters there. The end, no way out. The characters were very deep, as if they had been carved there for a long time. The characters were in traditional Chinese, which meant that they hadn't been carved there recently. Someone had been here before, but never made it out. Shi Shang pointed at the characters. Do you see it clearly? So even if I didn't do anything, you would still die here. Impossible. Impossible. How could this be the end? It's impossible. Yi Yao suddenly stood up and scolded righteously. Wen Bei, don't be an alarmist. This is definitely not the end. Are you hiding something? Shi Shang looked at Yi Yao calmly. Then what do you think I'm hiding? Yi Yao's expression changed slightly. How would I know what you're hiding? What did you see inside the waterfall? Yi Yao pointed out the main point. Shi Shang had been inside the waterfall alone, so they didn't know what was inside. Nothing. It's just a stone statue. There was a cave behind the waterfall, and there was only a stone statue inside. The statue didn't have a head, but its body didn't look like anything at all. Shi Shang was scared when he saw it, so he chopped it in half. Of course, this was Shi Shang's own explanation. But the system felt that she did it on purpose. After she entered the cave, she took out her sword and chopped it in half. Her movements were so fast that it was as if she was specially made to chop a stone statue. Only a stone statue? How can you prove it? Yi Yao seemed to have changed into a different person. Her aura increased several levels. What did you see behind the waterfall? Hey, there's something wrong with your wife. Shi Shang looked sideways at Pei Yi. Pei Yi frowned and looked at Yi Yao. Yi Yao's behavior was indeed different from usual. Yao. What did you see behind the waterfall? Yi Yao suddenly flipped out and rushed toward Shi Shang. Her expression was ferocious. What did you see? Holy shit. Female lead Sama, what are you doing? What does what I saw have anything to do with you? I don't want to fight with you. Okay. I'm going to fill the hole that the female lead left behind. Yep. I know how to fill holes. I only wanted to write a pretentious face-slapping scene, but I don't know why, but the more I write, the more I think about the plot. How infuriating. I can't stop thinking about all kinds of complicated plots. What should I do? Chapter 1030. Shi Shang said that he didn't want to fight with Yi Yao, but his body was telling the truth. The speed at which he acted was faster than the others. To everyone's surprise, Yi Yao, who was weak and didn't have much fighting power, didn't lose to Shi Shang immediately. You killed him. You killed him. I'm going to kill you. Yi Yao repeated these words. Who did I kill? The male lead was still standing there. I didn't touch him. You killed him. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Shi Shang was furious. Who did I kill? I'm going to flip the table. Say it clearly if you dare. Damn it. Was Yi Yao taken by someone? Why did she suddenly become so powerful? Shi Shang found an opportunity to kick Yi Yao in the stomach. She took a few steps back. She probably wanted to continue, but when she straightened her back, her expression suddenly changed. Her face turned pale and she clutched her stomach. Ah! Yi Yao's body was on the verge of collapsing. This is a good opportunity. I'll stab her again. Shi Shang was the closest to Yi Yao. He pushed the iron sword forward and directly pierced Yi Yao's shoulder. Shi Shang, don't blame me for being careless. Yi Yao suddenly bent down and the iron sword's position changed. It's all Mr. Plot's fault. I'll stab her again. Shi Shang pulled out the iron sword and prepared to stab Yi Yao again. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in front of her. Pei Yi suddenly stepped in and pointed a gun at her. Don't move. Idiot. Shi Shang didn't hesitate to send the iron sword into Yi Yao's body. Pei Yi fired at the same time. The bullets created sparks at the muzzle of the gun. Time seemed to have stopped and the bullets flew in slow motion. The next moment, the air returned to normal, and the bullet was already in front of Shi Shang. But a strange scene happened. The bullet seemed to have hit a protective film with elastic force. It suddenly bounced back and hit Pei Yi's arm. Pei Yi staggered. He covered his arm and looked at Shi Shang with confusion. Shi Shang was a little excited. There seemed to be very little resistance in killing the male and female leads now. Host, please calm down. Killing the male and female leads won't do you any good. Shi Shang. I'm happy to. 1,000 words couldn't compare to a single sentence of, I'm willing. My ass. Even if you're a stepmother, you don't have to be so biased. What's wrong with the male and female leads? Cat biscuits. The male and female leads who met their hosts were truly pitiful. Let's light a candle for the protagonists who met the host. Shi Shang didn't manage to kill them in time because something had happened to Yi Yao's stomach. Her flat stomach expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it was like a pregnant woman who was 5 months pregnant. Ah! Yi Yao clutched her stomach. It hurts. Her stomach moved up and down as if something was tossing around inside her. It hurts. The veins on the back of Yi Yao's hand popped out. It hurts. Help me. It hurts. Ah! They had heard a lot of screams along the way, but when they heard Yi Yao's scream, they couldn't help but feel numb. Pei Yi ignored the wound on his arm and supported Yi Yao. Then he reached out to touch her stomach. At this moment, her stomach was burning. The temperature was definitely not something a human could withstand. What's in her stomach? What the hell is going on? Oh my god, what the hell is going on? I don't want to stay in this scary place anymore. The pervert Su Nianji came over expressionlessly with a scalpel while these people were panicking. He looked like he was waiting for Yi Yao to die so that he could dissect her. Shi Shang. There's really nothing to talk about with a pervert. His brain is probably only filled with dissection and weird stuff. There's nothing else in it. Geniuses were all crazy. Fortunately, I'm a genius who's not crazy. Sigh, geniuses like me are hard to find in this world. The mentally retarded host is being narcissistic again. You're not crazy? If you're not crazy, there probably won't be any crazy people in this world. Yi Yao. Boss, what's going on? Panko also looked at Yi Yao nervously. Pei Yi didn't know what was going on. Scalpel. Give me the scalpel, Yi Yao said through gritted teeth as she grabbed Pei Ye's hand. Her forehead was covered in sweat. Su Nianji silently handed over the scalpel and looked at Yi Yao expectantly. What are you doing? Panko slapped Su Nianji's hand away and stared at him with bloodshot eyes. She didn't want the scalpel. I gave it to her. Su Nianji stared back at him angrily. What did he do wrong? Panko. Shi Shang was watching the show with great interest. Giving a scalpel to someone who committed suicide was very perverted, but there was nothing wrong with it. Shi Shang was sure that he wasn't reading a tomb raiding novel, but a sci-fi novel. And it was a Chinese novel. Yi Yao screamed so miserably that Pei Yi knocked her unconscious. Yi Yao fainted and her stomach calmed down. They surrounded Yi Yao and looked at her stomach. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. Shi Shang played with the night-luminescent pearl. The light from the pearl flickered with her hands. Can you not touch it? Panko yelled at Shi Shang in exasperation. The flashlight couldn't be used here and only the night-luminescent pearl could light up the room. She kept moving the pearl. Shi Shang quickly put the night-luminescent pearl into his pocket. The room immediately darkened and they could only vaguely see the glow of the pearl in Shi Shang's pocket. Panko was so angry that his face contorted. Wenbei. Shi Shang's voice was crisp and sounded particularly pleasant in the dark. What? Take out the night-luminescent pearl. Didn't you ask me not to touch it? Shi Shang's tone suddenly became serious and he shouted fiercely, I didn't touch it and you asked I to take it out. How shameless are you? Panko. He meant that he shouldn't touch the night-luminescent pearl. Who told him to hide it? This woman was doing it on purpose. Shi Shang continued arrogantly, Yes, I did it on purpose. Bite me. If she was willing to take out something that belonged to someone else, then so be it. If she was unwilling, then so be it. There was no need for them to make demands. Wenbei, don't flaunt your abilities at a time like this. We're all trapped here. Let's help each other. The archaeology team's representative tried to be the peacemaker. If you want to help, then help. I'm not stopping you. Shi Shang snorted. The archaeology team's representative wanted to talk nicely to Shi Shang, but Shi Shang's words were harsh and he couldn't accept it. He said in an unpleasant tone, Don't you want to get out? Do you think you can do it by yourself? Why else would I rely on all of you? There's strength in numbers. If we work together, we'll definitely get out. Someone else interrupted. Back then, someone managed to get out of here. That's why they brought out the information. If our predecessors could get out, so can we. That's right. We'll definitely get out. Wenbei, don't be so selfish. Let's work together and settle our grudges outside. Shi Shang dug his ears. Settle our grudges outside? Wouldn't it be better if we died here? We don't even have to dispose of our corpses. Everyone. They were speechless. *# today's hibiscus-flavored ticket ## congratulations on unlocking a big gift pack. The reward is auspicious start of school #. Chapter 1031. Everyone was speechless at Shi Shang's fallacious reasoning. When a person didn't hide their malice, everyone could feel it. At this moment, Shi Shang gave them the same feeling. His entire body, even his hair, was full of malice. She wouldn't help them, nor would she back down. They couldn't beat her, so they could only watch her be arrogant and crazy. The water level outside was getting closer and closer. The creatures in the pool they passed by seemed to have gathered together and were approaching them. Were they really going to die here? Despair grew in the crowd. Boss! Boss, look at Miss Yi. In the silence, someone screamed in panic. There was still a faint light coming from Shi Shang's side. Vaguely, they could see Yi Yao's body changing. Her limbs were elongating, and sharp edges were growing out of her arms. Her stomach was expanding, and it looked like it was going to burst. Boss! God, is this a mutation? What on earth is in her stomach? She's a monster. Hurry up and kill her. Don't let her wake up. There were all kinds of opinions in the crowd. Humans were like this. When something threatened their safety, no matter what it was, they would speak ill of it and eliminate the danger. Yi Yao's body was still changing, and the material of her clothes had already been torn. This was the rhythm of turning into a freak. Amazing. But why was the female lead changing like this? Was it a necessary part of the plot? That was too extreme. My ass. Host, have you forgotten what you did in that ancient tomb? Shi Shang. What did it have to do with him? It wasn't him who stuffed the mutated creature into the female lead's body. He wasn't going to take the blame. Not going to. I'm so angry. The mentally retarded host doesn't even remember what she did. Shi Shang. I didn't know in the first place. That egg, do you remember the egg? The system was going crazy. This plot shouldn't have happened, but the host forced the egg out. That was how the plot came to be. She was the main culprit, yet she still had the nerve to ask questions here and there. Who gave her the face? Shi Shang's eyes narrowed. That egg in the tomb wasn't empty? How did it get into the female lead Darren's body? If the place where they lived was destroyed, they would have to find a new home. Mothaf * Kerr, retarded host. While Shi Shang was arguing with the system, Yi Yao had completed her evolution. She no longer looked like a human being. Just as everyone was looking at her in shock, she suddenly opened her eyes. Ah! The crowd that was already far away from her let out a low cry. Pei Yi was also pulled far away. He stared warily at the mutated Yi Yao. Shi Shang took out the night-luminescent pearl and dispelled the darkness. Everyone could see Yi Yao clearly. She was now half the size of a normal person. There were some strange sharp thorns on both sides of her body. Her skin had turned into something like scales. Only her belly still had human skin. Pieces of torn clothes hung on her body. The sudden light seemed to irritate Yi Yao. She reached out her enlarged hand to block the light. Then, she slowly stood up from the ground. She still had a human face, but her pupils were scarlet. There was an inorganic coldness in them. She turned her head and looked around. Then, she silently looked down at her belly and slowly stroked it. She touched it a few times longingly. Then, her nails suddenly elongated and scratched the center of her belly. Fresh blood flowed from her belly to the ground, revealing the scarlet flesh inside. Blurg. Someone couldn't help but vomit. It was like watching a person being disemboweled. No, it was a monster. Kill her now. She wasn't human. She was a monster. Shi Shang waved his iron sword and quickly slashed at her belly. The thing in her belly should be the thing inside the egg. Yi Yao's body was just a container. Yi Yao was taking the thing out of her belly when Shi Shang suddenly slashed at her. She instinctively blocked with her arm. The iron sword cut off her arm like cutting through tofu. Yi Yao's face suddenly became ferocious. All kinds of expressions appeared on her face. Help me. This was Yi Yao's voice. She was in pain and helpless. But in the next second, she continued to raise the hand that wasn't cut off and took the thing out of her belly. Shi Shang felt a chill and slashed at her again. Yi Yao's body instinctively protected the thing in her belly. She would rather use her body to block the sword than expose her belly. "Help me, ah." Yi Yao's expression became very strange. It was as if two people were controlling her body. Yi Yao finally pulled the thing out of her body. It was a black mass full of blood and viscous liquid. Yi Yao held it with both hands. Her whole body was trembling. The next moment, she fell to the ground, closed her eyes, and fell to the ground. It was unknown whether she was dead or alive. The scales and spikes on her body quickly disappeared. She returned to her human appearance. Ugh! The scene was even more bloody when she returned to her human form. Squeak! The thing in Yi Yao's hands suddenly moved. It slowly stretched its body. Its body was similar to a human's, but its face... It was very similar to the transparent stone statue that Shi Shang threw away. Bang! Bang, bang, bang! No one knew who fired first, but in the end, everyone with a gun fired at the monster. Bullets flew everywhere. The sound of gunfire was endless. The scene was out of control. Oru pulled Su Nianji to the back of the crowd. At this time, if the young master rushed forward, he would definitely die. He could not let go of the young master. However, Su Nianji did not struggle very hard. He seemed to be shocked by the thing in front of him. The little monster was hit by the bullets, but it was not hurt at all. It only made 2 sharp squeaks. Then, it jumped toward the nearest person. Its body was like a cannonball. It directly went through the person's chest. Its speed was very fast. After the first person died, the person next to him also suffered. The little monster that was stained with human blood grew a lot in an instant. The little monster probably learned an upgraded skill on its own. It sucked the blood of the 2 people who died. When it stopped, the little monster had already grown to the size of a 10-year-old child. They could not even deal with an infant, let alone a child. These people screamed and ran outside. However, it was all water outside. In the end, they gritted their teeth and jumped into the water. They swam quickly away. However, they suddenly disappeared on the surface of the water. It was not safe inside, but it was also not safe outside. At this time, only Pei Yi, Panko, Su Nianji, Oru, Shi Shang and 2 other members of the archaeological group were left in the cave. They also wanted to run outside, but the little monster blocked the way. They could not escape even if they wanted to. Even Pei Ye's face changed when he saw this unknown creature. Only Shi Shang stared at the little monster as if he wanted to see a flower in it. Squeak! The little monster squeaked sharply at Shi Shang. Then, it said word by word, "I am back." Today is Valentine's Day. The FFF Archaeological Group is open. Chapter 1032. Shi Shang's mouth twitched. "Why did you come back to talk to I? I was not your girlfriend." Shi Shang swung his sword without hesitation. This little monster looked very dangerous. It was better to kill it. When Shi Shang made a move, it wouldn't be logical if she didn't cause the sky to fall and the earth to crack. The sword aura swept across the space, turning the precious stones into powder. The little monsters were running around in the space, as if they were enraged. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws at Shi Shang. "Young master, let's go." Oru pulled Su Nianji. "Xiao Bei." Su Nianji frowned. "Miss One is so powerful. She will be fine. Young master, we can't stay here. Let's go." Boom. "Young master." Oru panicked. If she continued to attack like this, the place would collapse soon. Su Nianji quickly picked up 2 precious stones and stuffed them into Oru's arms. "Let's go." Oru, who was holding the precious stones, was speechless. Why did he have to bring stones? But the young master must have his reasons. Oru did not throw away the precious stones and ran to the entrance with Su Nianji. Boom! Just as they reached the entrance, the entire space behind them began to collapse. Countless black stones fell down. They only had 2 options. They could either jump down or be crushed to death. Su Nianji glanced at Oru. If we can make it back alive, I won't deduct your salary. Oru's heavy heart suddenly relaxed. The two of them jumped into the water at the same time. Almost at the same time, the entrance was completely blocked. The entire space was dead silent for about 3 seconds. 3 seconds later, the rocks behind them began to collapse and fall into the water. Shi Shang killed the little monster and rushed out of the rocks. He saw the entire rock collapse and the water was pushed away, wave after wave. Behind the rock, there was a glittering golden door. Above the gate, immortal chi curled up. Dragons flew and phoenixes danced. The immortal stood above the clouds, looking down at the ordinary people below with a benevolent expression. The door was huge, and he couldn't see the end of it. He didn't know where it led to. However, in the middle, there was a circular depression that matched the golden dragon seal on her hand. Shi Shang was a little dumbfounded. She felt a very strong immortal chi. It wasn't spiritual energy, it was immortal energy, which could only be found in the celestial realm. Was this really a tomb of the gods? The virtual world also had a history. In ancient times, there were gods, so it wasn't strange for a divine tomb to appear. However, why are there so many weird things in the tomb of the gods? Flip's table. No, it shouldn't be the inside. They didn't open this door. Instead, they set up countless mechanisms outside. What was he trying to do? To prevent humans from finding out? Or do you want to take it for yourself? Or maybe it was both. Shi Shang looked at the golden dragon seal in his hand and suddenly felt that it was a little hot. Damn it, I'd better hand it over to the country. It scared me to death. This turn of events really caught her off guard. Host, aren't you going to open it and take a look? The system seemed a little curious. Why would I open it? At most, I can see 2 corpses that haven't decomposed. I have even seen a real god. Do I need to see 2 corpses? I wouldn't do such a degrading thing. Okay, no need. Shi Shang looked at the increasing amount of water in the distance. Very good. How do I get out now? Where did all this water come from? There was no end to it. Shi Shang was still in the desert, and it was still the same city. It was as if everything she experienced down there was just an illusion. Shi Shang came out of the city. There were some people outside. As soon as she appeared, someone pointed a gun at her. Who is it? Don't be nervous. It's one of us, one of us. Jiang Qing rushed out from behind and quickly calmed the person who pointed a gun at her. Little Jiang, do you know them? Yes. Jiang Qing nodded quickly. Of course, he didn't know them. The person looked Shi Shang up and down, then put down the gun and asked her, Are you with them? Where are the others? They had been separated from the people in front of them. After the city was buried by sand, they were locked in a room. Later, they found a way out and found that the city had returned to the surface. Shi Shang looked up at the scorching sun in the sky and moved her lips. They're probably dead. She could hack a way out, but the others couldn't. Everyone's expression changed. Jiang Qing took a bottle of water from the person next to him and handed it to Shi Shang. Miss Wen, are you okay? I'm not dead. Shi Shang didn't take it. I'm afraid it's poisonous. Thank you. Jiang Qing. You're so honest. They wanted to ask Shi Shang some details, but Shi Shang refused to talk. She was tired and just wanted to be alone. So these people didn't get a single clue from her. The next day, they found that she was gone at dawn. She seems to have left. That girl is weird. Little Jiang, who is she? Some of them had been with the team since the beginning, but they had never seen her before. Jiang Qing held the hard object in his hand with a complicated expression. After a while, he said, Wen Bei, the one who stole the golden dragon seal from Hua Jinyuan. They might not know Wen Bei, but they knew about Hua Jinyuan and the golden dragon seal. That's her? So young. Jiang Qing calmly put the item back where it was and looked into the distance. Yes, so young. No one spoke for a while. After a long time, someone asked carefully, she said that she's dead. Are we still waiting? When Shi Shang returned to Chaoyang City, the first news he heard was that the stone statue had disappeared. It had disappeared at night. There were all kinds of theories. Some said that it had been picked up by a UFO, while others said that the officials had moved the stone statue away. As for the truth, no one could say for sure. Host, aren't you curious? Shi Shang crossed his legs, ate some snacks, and watched the news leisurely. What's there to be curious about? About the stone statue. What's there to be curious about? Shi Shang asked. What does it have to do with me? One could live a more comfortable life by not meddling in other people's business. If it had nothing to do with them and they didn't know anything about it, they shouldn't pursue it, lest they get into trouble. Is it possible that it's alive? Aren't you worried about it? It's so scary to be alive. Shi Shang was expressionless. If it dared to come back, he would make sure it never came back. I don't want to talk to host. After Shi Shang came back, he went to take on 2 tombs. When he came back, he met Jiang Qing at the gate. Miss Wan. Jiang Qing was wearing his police uniform and looked more handsome. Long time no see. Shi Shang put on a fake smile. What are you doing? Want to arrest me? Miss Wan, you've misunderstood. Jiang Qing quickly explained, I'm here to thank you on behalf of the country. Thank you for returning the Golden Dragon Seal to the country. It's taking up space. Jiang Qing. Last time, you refused to give it to me and made such an unreasonable request. Now you're saying that it's taking up space. Are you done? Jiang Qing was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I'm done. Goodbye, I won't see you out. Bang. Jiang Qing looked at the closed door and felt a strange feeling in his heart. This girl was really a special person. Of course, in the following days, Jiang Qing would understand what it meant to be special. All the tombs that she had entered were single-use items. If he didn't get in front of her, he would be dreaming if he wanted to enter the tombs again. Catch. He had to be able to catch her first. Chapter 1033. When Sun Yanji woke up, he realized that he was lying on a hospital bed, his body wrapped up like a dumpling. He was found by a fisherman on the beach without any identification on him. The fisherman was kind enough to take the money and send him to the hospital. Doctor, the patient on bed 35 is awake. The moment Sun Yanji woke up, he was tossed around to check on him. In the end, the doctor's face was filled with amazement. To think that he would have pulled through. When this patient was sent in, he was on his last breath and they thought that they would not be able to save him. Who knew that he would be able to do so? However, it was a pity that he did not wake up after that. Oh. Sun Yanji's voice was hoarse. Where's Oh? The doctor leaned forward to hear his words clearly and noted it down. Oh. Your friend? Where is he? You were found on the beach and you were the only one sent here. Do you still remember how to contact your friend? We can help you contact him. Sun Yanji clutched his head. There were many fragments of memories in his mind that were attacking his nerves continuously. So painful. Water, strange creatures, rocks. Oh. All sorts of images intertwined as Sun Yanji clutched his head and screamed. The doctor hurriedly got someone to hold him down and inject him with a tranquilizer. After Sun Yanji woke up, the hospital contacted his family. Sun Yanji was brought back. However, Sun Yanji's condition was not very good. He was either in a daze or clutching his head while screaming. Old Master Su was worried. However, no matter what he asked, Sun Yanji would not say a single word. Ever since he was brought back, other than screaming, he did not say a single word. In a short period of time, Old Master Su seemed to have aged by more than 10 years. This situation lasted until his body recovered completely. However, after he recovered, Sun Yanji's condition worsened. He threw everything in his room, including his years of experiment data and specimens. If this had happened in the past, Elder Su would have been very happy. However, Su Nianji's current state was like a ticking time bomb to Elder Su. Old Master Su sent people to keep an eye on him 24/7, afraid that his grandson would explode if he wasn't careful. However, Su Nianji didn't do anything excessive other than not speaking and throwing everything away. Young Master hasn't been eating much lately. He didn't even touch the food that was sent over this morning. The servant was reporting Su Nianji's condition to Old Master Su. Old Master Su listened with a worried expression. "Grandpa." A slightly hoarse voice suddenly came from behind him. Old Master Su turned his head abruptly, more surprised than pleasantly surprised. He stood up shakily, and his cloudy eyes couldn't help but sting. "Nianji." Su Nianji suddenly knelt down. "I'm sorry, grandfather. I've made you worry. What are you doing? Get up." Old Master Su quickly supported Su Nianji's arms. "Your body hasn't recovered yet. If there's anything, we'll talk about it in the future." Su Nianji stood up with Old Master Su's support. "Grandpa, I won't make you worry anymore." Old Master Su patted the back of Su Nianji's hand and sighed. "Grandpa is getting old." Su Nianji's parents weren't in the Huaxiar Empire, so Old Master Su only had Su Nianji by his side. However, Su Nianji was away all year round, so Old Master Su was actually very lonely by himself. He wanted his children and grandchildren to accompany him. They didn't have to be there all the time, and it would be good to have a meal every day. Old Master Su sighed deeply. "Oh, as long as you're well, Grandpa doesn't have any other requests." Su Nianji lowered his head and pursed his lips. "Grandpa, Oru is dead." Old Master Su had already guessed it when he didn't see Oru by Su Nianji's side. He didn't know what his grandson and Oru had been through, so he could only sigh silently. "Oru is a good child." Oru was an orphan without a family and was adopted by the Su family when he was young. In the past, he lived with Su Nianji's parents overseas. Later on, Su Nianji's condition became more and more abnormal, and thus, Oru was sent to stay by Su Nianji's side. Su Nianji didn't say anything else. Old Master Su shook his head helplessly, afraid that Su Nianji would take things too hard. Hence, he talked to Su Nianji for a long time. Su Nianji erected a tombstone for Oru. Every year, Su Nianji would visit the tombstone, and the photo on the tombstone was the photo on Oru's identification card. Su Nianji stood in the drizzle for a long time. He bent down and placed the fresh flowers in front of the tombstone. Oru, 7th year. Su Nianji saw Shishang once after a long time. She was teaching a man a lesson on the streets, and she was as fierce as ever. She seemed to have caught sight of him through the crowd, but it was just a glance before she retracted her gaze, as though he was just a stranger to her. "Teacher? Do you know her?" A young girl beside him asked curiously. Su Nianji's eyes flashed with a different light. After a long time he said, "I've known her for a long time." "Then why don't you go up and say hello?" "No need." Su Nianji smiled and shook his head before leaving. Since Su Nianji had survived, Pei Yi, who had the halo of the male lead, naturally didn't die. However, he wasn't as lucky as Su Nianji to have an Oru. Pei Yi had lost an arm. Even though he had lost an arm, Pei Yi was still the terrifying heir of the Pei family. However, not long after, the Pei family was completely investigated because they were suspected of being in a black industry. Pei Yi, the heir, was naturally implicated. Everyone knew that someone was behind the Pei family's crisis. They even knew who was behind it, but they couldn't do anything to her. The Pei family was about to collapse. In order to protect the Pei family, the higher-ups agreed to give up Pei Yi as the heir and chase him out of the family. Without the Pei family as his backing, no one dared to use Pei Yi even if he was capable. He only had one arm, so he couldn't do any physical work. "Wenbei, get out here." Pei Yi didn't know how he got Shishang's address. At this moment, he was standing outside and shouting crazily. "Gotcha!" The door was slowly pulled open. The figure he would never forget appeared at the door. She looked indifferent and didn't move at all when she saw him like this. As soon as Shishang appeared, Pei Yi was excited. Wenbei, are you satisfied? Yes. Shi Shang nodded. I'm very satisfied to see that you're not doing well. Pei Yi gritted his teeth. What grudge do I have with you? Why do you have to treat me like this? Shi Shang tilted his head and said with a strange expression, What grudge? Don't tell me you've forgotten how you pushed me into the snake cave in the ancient tomb? Don't you think that's considered a grudge? Pei Yi seemed to recall that incident. He had done it to save Yi Yao, however. Yi Yao was already dead. She had died in that strange place. No. It was all because of this woman that he had become like this. He wanted to kill her. As soon as this thought appeared, the door in front of him closed. No matter how he shouted, no one answered him. He couldn't enter either. As soon as he got close to the door, he would be sent flying. Chapter 1034. The neighbors nearby were frightened by Pei Yi's crazy behavior and hurriedly called the police. Pei Yi was taken away. It was said that he was locked up for a while and was released because he didn't commit any serious crimes. After being released, Pei Yi was idle all day. Sometimes, people from the Pei family would secretly send him money. Later, when Pei Yi became more and more depraved, the Pei family completely gave up on him. Fortunately, Pei Yi still had a face and got married in the end. After getting married, Pei Yi cheered up for a period of time. However, after hitting a wall everywhere, Pei Yi became depressed again and relied on his wife's salary to survive. As days like this went on, people outside began to point fingers at Pei Yi and whisper. At first, Pei Yi tolerated it, but later, he vented it on his wife. Money determined a person's status. If Pei Yi was still a rich man, no one would dare to say a word even if he was violent enough to kill people. They would only fear and respect him. However, Pei Yi was now an idle man. In the eyes of outsiders, his behavior was crazy and perverted. In the end, someone couldn't stand it anymore and called the police. The police took Pei Yi for a psychiatric evaluation. In the end, they diagnosed him as a mentally ill person. Pei Yi was sent to a mental hospital and never came out. 10 years after Shi Shang came out of that place, Shi Shang suddenly received a call from Jiang Qing. Shi Shang was such a dangerous person. Of course, the government had to keep an eye on her all the time. Jiang Qing was her contact. Jiang Qing invited Shi Shang to the museum. Shi Shang hung up the phone before he could finish his sentence. Jiang Qing had been dealing with Shi Shang for so many years and had long been used to her personality. After communicating with the other side, he finally decided to bring a large group of people to her house to look for her. Therefore, Shi Shang's house was quickly filled with people. She sat on the sofa with her legs crossed, shaking like a loafer. Her face did not change at all. 10 years had not left any traces on her body. Jiang Qing, why did you bring these idiots to my house? Shi Shang glared at Jiang Qing. Jiang Qing said helplessly, Miss Wan, I invited you to the museum but you refused. There's nothing I can do about it. Don't yell. These people are experts. Shi Shang snorted. A bricklayer? My house doesn't move bricks, so I won't see you off. The experts. If they hadn't been brainwashed to not take her words to heart, some of them would have had a heart attack. They have something to ask you. Jiang Qing put his hands together in front of Shi Shang. Please, just answer a few questions. No, get out. Shi Shang's attitude was firm. Jiang Qing was afraid of angering her, so he asked the others to leave first. Then he came back to persuade Shi Shang. According to Jiang Qing, they had obtained some information from the transparent stone statue that had disappeared. After 10 years of hard work, they had finally solved some of the puzzles. They found that the words on the stone tablets that had been discovered all over the world were the same as the words on the transparent stone statue. Since they had solved the words, they naturally knew what was written on the stone tablets. Although they did not fully understand, they managed to figure out the truth from the words. The transparent stone statue was a race that had arrived here from a very distant place. At that time, this place was very backward. They had lived here for a while and realized that this place was not suitable for their survival, so they were ready to leave. But at that moment, they found the tomb of the god of sin. The real tomb of the god of sin. The power of the tomb of the god of sin frightened them, but their fear bred a desire. They longed for that power. They thought of many ways, but they could not open the tomb of the god of sin. Then something seemed to have happened, and they had to give up the tomb of the god of sin and leave this planet. But in order to find this planet and the tomb of the god of sin again, they made some arrangements. The 4 positions on the stone tablets were used to locate the location of the planet. According to these positions, it was easy to find the location of the tomb of the god of sin. So, Shi Shang was sleepy. This plot was so old-fashioned that it was boring. Jiang Qing glanced at Shi Shang and suddenly asked, "You've been to the tomb of the god of sin, right?" Others might not have been able to, but he believed that she could. "So what if I have?" Jiang Qing looked outside and quickly said, "Some people support finding the tomb of the god of sin, while others oppose. If you've really been to that place, don't tell anyone. Aren't you in cahoots with them?" Shi Shang sneered. Jiang Qing's expression changed slightly. "My wish is for the country to be rich and powerful, not to search for some miracle. Miracle exists. If you find it, you might be able to live forever. Aren't you tempted?" Jiang Qing suddenly smiled. 100 years is enough. Even if there was a miracle, how much would it cost to find it? Like last time, so many people went in, but only Shi, Pei Yi, and Su Nianji came back. Shi Shang added coldly, "Maybe you can only live until you're 50. Jiang Qing's mouth twitched. "Then I'd like to." A person's life was not determined by how long he lived, but by what he did while he was alive. Jiang Qing thought that Shi Shang had listened to him, but in the blink of an eye, she told him that the tomb of the god of sin did exist and even marked it on the map. Jiang Qing almost vomited blood. However, those people went in high spirits and returned in disappointment. The city that Shi Shang marked out was gone. There was nothing there. At first, they thought they had found the wrong city. They went there several times, but the result was the same. There was no city there at all. Shi Shang's explanation was that it might have run away on its own. How could a city run away on its own? They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. However, Jiang Qing, who had seen the city disappear and reappeared in the desert, believed it. Those people persisted for their whole lives but still couldn't find the city. In the end, they could only give up. Shi Shang lived for a long time in this world. She died in her 50s. How did she die? She committed suicide. Don't ask why she committed suicide. Living was really a torture. Anyway, she had fulfilled her host's last wish and became a big boss. She wanted to take revenge. She would die sooner or later. When she died, some people probably wanted to set off firecrackers to celebrate. Back in the system space, Shi Shang jumped around in the system space for a while. Host, did you eat ecstasy and can't stop? Shi Shang rolled her eyes at the system. You don't understand the benefits of being young. Yes, I don't understand. Let's look for more information. Name, Shi Shang morality points, 315000 health points, 40 contribution points, 49800 mission grade, a mission score, 88 side mission, failed side mission reward, contribution points, 10,000 item list, Queen's Crown, Ghost King's Heart, Dark Knight, Kirin blood weight a minute. What the hell is I deducting 10,000 contribution points? Host, I've reminded you. If the side mission is not completed, your contribution points will be deducted. Shi Shang stared at the screen. I'll give you one more chance. Refresh the page again. The system didn't respond for a long time. Shi Shang took out her tablet silently. The system gave in instantly. Name, Shi Shang morality points, 315000 health points, 40 contribution points, 59800 mission grade, a mission score, 88 side mission, failed side mission reward, 0 contribution points item list, Queen's Crown, Ghost King's Heart, dark night, Kiran Bloodsher Shang put away the tablet with satisfaction. She wandered around the system space for a while and waved her hand. Next. The system was secretly selecting from the database. Start of transmission. Chapter 1035. Everyone knew that Qi-an was Lu Yu's lifeline. Silence. A deathly silence. It was rare to encounter such a quiet situation, but the pain was still overwhelming. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die again. I'm so angry. Can't I just come here quietly and be a pretentious pretty girl? The pain in his abdomen dispelled Shi Shang's wild thoughts. Needless to say, his abdomen had hit the jackpot this time. Retarded system. Shi Shang was going crazy. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes. There was a vast expanse of white in front of him and he couldn't see anything. Shi Shang tried to blink his eyes to get rid of the pain in his eyes, but there was still white light in front of him. Shi Shang. F***CK. 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 Am I blind? What the hell am I doing now? How am I going to show off when I can't see anything? Go offline and change to another world. Host, your eyes are fine. There's no problem. If the system was a human, it would be gnashing its teeth. Do you think you can change worlds just because you want to? Do you think I'm a cabbage? If I'm not blind, why can't I see anything? Try again. Shi Shang blinked a few more times. The white light in front of her gradually turned into a blurry scene. She blinked for a while before she could see clearly. There was a scorching sun above her head. Maybe it was because the original owner was injured and the sun was shining on her, causing her temporary blindness. Shi Shang reached out and touched his lower abdomen. 1 word, pain. 2 words, so painful. 3 words, want to chop someone. Why can the host jump from pain to chop someone? To save herself, Shi Shang propped herself up with her elbows and looked around. This was a slope with lush trees. She might have rolled down from above and was blocked by a rock, so she didn't continue rolling down. F***CK, retarded system, do you dare to give I the newbie gift package? Shi Shang was so angry that he cursed the system's entire family. Why is the host always thinking about the newbie gift package? I really don't have a newbie gift package, okay? No. Don't ask about the newbie gift package anymore. Shi Shang leaned against the rock and lowered his head to look at his abdomen. The clothes he was wearing were from ancient times. This was King Ancient Plane. Shi Shang tested the spiritual energy first. It was very good. It was quite abundant. With spiritual energy, she would recover much faster. The wound on her abdomen was directly penetrated. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't hit a vital point, she would have died. But with this kind of injury, the original owner didn't last long. Shi Shang covered his wound and gritted his teeth. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. Hiss. Flip the table, someone come save I. Why was it that whenever the female lead was injured, it was either the domineering male lead or the loyal male supporting character that came to save her? If the cannon fodders were injured, they would be lucky if they survived, but if they didn't, they deserved it. Weren't cannon fodder humans? Cannon fodder also needed love. So painful. It was so painful that he wanted to chop someone up. Where is I's sword? Shi Shang felt that she would bleed to death if she continued to delay. She wanted to take off her clothes, but when she raised her hands in front of her eyes, she found that her hands were full of wounds and swollen like pig trotters. It was a horrible sight. Shi Shang, what exactly did the original owner experience? Her claws were injured, so it took Shi Shang a few hours to treat the wound. At this time, she couldn't see any light and it was pitch black all around. The wilderness at night always made people's hair stand on end. It was as if something was lying in ambush in the dark, ready to jump out at any time. Shi Shang casually looked around. Since it was like this, it was better to accept the plot first. The original owner was called Lu Yu, a gold medal assassin in Qian Yu Pavilion. She had never been defeated before. During mid-autumn, she received a mission to assassinate the young master of the Xikong family, Xikong Feng. This young master was rumored to be weak and couldn't practice martial arts, but he was exceptionally smart and handsome. She thought that this mission wouldn't be difficult, but who would have thought that this mission would lead to her tragedy? Xikong Feng was the male lead of this story, but this male lead wasn't the real Xikong Feng. The male lead replaced Xikong Feng, and his goal was to unify Zhonghu. When the original owner went to assassinate him, she was naturally caught alive by the male lead who knew martial arts. He interrogated the original owner about the whereabouts of the Thousand Threads Ice Silkworm, and his methods were cruel and cold. The Thousand Threads Ice Silkworm had always been in the hands of the pavilion master of Liao Yu Pavilion. It was rumored that this thing could cure hundreds of poisons. Anyway, it was a treasure. The male lead wanted the Thousand Threads Ice Silkworm, and he caught the golden assassin of Liao Yu Pavilion. Of course, he would interrogate the Thousand Threads Ice Silkworm. But the original owner didn't know that she hadn't even seen the pavilion master. If she said so, the male lead would definitely not believe her. The original owner had been trained since she was young. She knew that this day would come, and she was already prepared to die. But she didn't expect that the male lead would capture her younger brother Lu Lin. Lu Lin was the original owner's younger brother. When they entered Liao Yu Pavilion together, Lu Yu was very talented and quickly became the focus of training. She had protected Lu Lin very well, and in order to better control these killing machines, Delicate Feather Pavilion had also acknowledged the existence of a weak point like her. The male lead caught Lu Lin and tortured him in front of the original owner. The original owner was so angry that she wanted to die together with the male lead. She tried to distract the male lead and let Lu Lin escape. The result was that the original owner died, and the male lead was still alive. She came here at the time when the original owner wanted to die together with the male lead. In the end, she was killed by the male lead. The original owner's last wish was to protect Lu Lin and then take revenge. Being caught, the original owner knew that it was only a matter of time, so she didn't blame the male lead. But the male lead used Lu Lin to threaten her. This touched her bottom line. Everyone had their bottom line, and so did the cannon fodder. Shi Sheng sighed. The original owner was really cannon fodder. The male lead hadn't met the female lead yet. It was after this battle with her that the injured male lead would meet the female lead. The male lead's story hadn't started, but her story had already reached the end. A stepping stone to open the curtains. A real kneeling episode. The cannon fodder original owner didn't do anything wrong. She just completed the task given by the higher-ups. In order to live, in order to let her younger brother live. She had a strong unwillingness, so it was natural. Shi Sheng received the story and sighed helplessly. It was hard to be cannon fodder. They were all stepping stones for the male lead. Damn, the retarded male lead still wanted to unify Zhonghu. Dream on. A woo, this wolf's howl startled Shi Sheng. She looked towards the source of the sound. Above the forest, a few pairs of eyes emitting green light were slowly approaching her. There were wolves. Host, why are you stuttering? Have you never seen wolves before? Shi Sheng stretched her neck and said eerily, no one can hack it, but it's okay to hack a wolf. He knew that the host wouldn't be afraid of weak animals like wolves. Hashtag what does the retarded host want to do again? Hashtag a host who doesn't cause trouble is definitely fake. Hashtag asterisk the story of the killer you want. La 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 la. Although I also don't know what the hell I wrote, but it should be readable. Ha ha ha, don't dislike it. Shy. Hashtag today's love ticket. Hashtag happy Valentine's Day. Hashtag if there's no lover, I can only rely on you guys. Hashtag. Chapter 1036. The howls of the wolves reverberated throughout the mountain. A skinny figure was stumbling up the mountain. The howls of the wolves tugged at his every nerve. Sister. He grabbed onto a nearby plant and gritted his teeth as he climbed up. The cold moonlight shone through the trees, illuminating the bloodstains on the ground he walked past. His foot slipped, and his whole body rolled down for a distance. "Sister, you have to stay alive," he murmured and continued climbing up the mountain. He didn't remember how long it took him to reach the top. The howls of the wolves had stopped. There was only the sound of the wind rustling the leaves. Rustle, there was no one. No corpse. Nothing at all. Lu Lin suddenly fell to the ground and screamed, "Sister, sister, where are you? Don't scare me." His voice echoed throughout the mountain. Shi Shang stood in a pile of wolf corpses and looked up with her sword. Lu Lin, the person that the original owner wanted to protect. Ah, a burden. Shi Shang sighed and walked up the mountain. After 2 steps, she let go of the iron sword and sat on it. Why did she have to walk when there was a sword to sit on? There was a cat biscuit. The iron sword sent her up the mountain easily. "Sister, sister." Lu Lin's voice was still there. Shi Shang followed the voice and saw Lu Lin preparing to go down the slope. He grabbed onto a nearby tree and carefully moved down. Lu Lin. Lu Lin's body stiffened and he turned around in surprise. "Sister." His movements were too big. He lost his footing and suddenly slid down. Shi Shang hurried up with her sword and grabbed onto his clothes. The pain in her hand was like needles. "Sister, you're still alive. That's great." Lu Lin's face was full of surprise, but his voice was choked with sobs. "I knew you'd be fine. You're so powerful. Come up." I's hand was going to be in so much pain if I didn't come up. Lu Lin nodded. He grabbed onto a nearby tree trunk to steady himself and slowly climbed to the flat ground. As soon as he got up, he pounced on Shi Shang. "Sister, I'm so glad you're okay." Shi Shang was caught off guard by his hug. She gasped, "Hiss." He felt as if someone had stabbed him in the stomach again. "Sister?" Lu Lin let go of her and nervously grabbed her arm. "Sister, are you hurt? What do you think?" Shi Shang gritted his teeth. "I am dying." Lu Lin was at a loss and asked carefully, "Sister, where are you hurt?" "Lin, will take you to see a doctor." Lu Lin helped Shi Shang down the mountain. In the middle of the night, they knocked on several clinics. Finally, a doctor pitied them and let them in. "Hey, what's wrong with this young master?" The doctor didn't see Shi Shang first, but Lu Lin. With the help of the light, Shi Shang could see that Lu Lin was also covered in blood. His clothes were torn, his hair was messy, and there were some scratches on his face. "Take a look at him first," Shi Shang said to the doctor as he supported himself on the table. "Sister, I'm fine. Doctor, please take a look at my sister." Lu Lin shook his head and dragged the doctor to Shi Shang. The doctor hurriedly said, "Hey, don't worry. I'll get my daughter to help you. Please sit down first." The doctor woke his daughter up and asked her to look after Shi Shang. He took Lu Lin to the room next door for a checkup. Lu Lin had many injuries on his body. Most of them were caused by the male lead's men. The old ones were stacked on top of the new ones. There was nothing good on his body. After the doctor diagnosed Lu Lin, he came out to check on Shi Shang. "Miss, forgive me for being blunt, but your hand, is it broken? Does it need to be amputated? This technique didn't exist in ancient times." The doctor shook his head. "It's not that bad. It's just that your wrist will hurt if you carry heavy objects in the future." Shi Shang's expression relaxed. "As long as it's not broken." The doctor's mouth twitched. He was worried that this girl wouldn't be able to accept it, but she didn't care at all. The doctor didn't hide it and said directly, "Although it's not a problem on normal days, it will be very painful on rainy or snowy days." "Okay." The doctor was a little confused by Shi Shang's calmness. He had been practicing medicine for so many years, but this was the first time he saw such a calm patient. Moreover, it was a girl. Unlike other patients who pretended to be calm in front of him, she had no emotions at all. It was as if he was talking about other people's business and had nothing to do with her. "It's late. Miss and young master, please stay here for the night." The The doctor was kind and arranged a place for Shi Shang and Lu Lin to stay. Shi Shang smiled and nodded slightly. The doctor seemed to be a little flattered. He thought this girl was an arrogant person. He didn't expect her to be so kind. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Shi Shang gave the doctor a lot of things and asked them to stay here for a while to recover. When their wounds were almost healed, they left with Lu Lin. She didn't have any money with her, so she could only use the things in her space to pay off the debt. She also asked the doctor to find a carriage for them. "Sister, where are we going?" Lu Lin grabbed the carriage. "Back to Lianyu Pavilion." Lu Lin's face slightly changed. He stammered, Can't we go back?" Shi Shang raised his eyebrows and looked at him. "Why?" "Sister, you failed your mission. You will be punished." Lu Lin's voice was even lower. "If we leave now, they will think that we are dead. Sister, don't go back." He didn't want to see her suffer so much for him. "They won't dare to do anything to me." Shi Shang patted Lu Lin's head. "Sister." Shi Shang forced him into the carriage and jumped into the carriage. Lianyu Pavilion was a villa on the surface, but the people inside, even a maid who swept the floor, was an assassin. Lianyu Pavilion was definitely the #1 assassin organization in Zhonghu. Shi Shang brought Lu Lin back. The people in Lianyu Pavilion were very surprised. They received the news that Lu Yu was dead and Lu Lin's whereabouts were unknown. When Shi Shang got out of the carriage, there was a sharp voice. "Lu Yu, you are actually fine." Shi Shang looked back and saw a graceful woman standing in front of the gate. Her beautiful face was full of disgust and hatred. Shi Shang searched his memory and found a name that matched this woman's name, Xian Man. The assassins in Lianyu Pavilion all started with the word Xian. Lu Yu and Lu Lin also had the same name. However, when Lu Yu came in that year, she remembered what her name was, so she never said Lianyu Pavilion's name. She only said her own name. As Lu Yu became more powerful and famous, Lianyu Pavilion gradually recognized her as Lu Yu. From the fact that she had a different name from others, it was obvious that her position in Lianyu Pavilion was different. She would definitely be hated and envied by others. Xian Man had always been suppressed by Lu Yu. She didn't like Lu Yu for a long time. When she finally heard that Lu Yu might be dead, she didn't even have time to be happy. She came back. * monthly votes 2000 plus more monthly votes 2000 plus more monthly votes 2000 plus more. I will add Don't say that I didn't add. #next monthly votes 4000 plus more. #Valentine's Day tip 520 for 1 round T. Comfort a single dog like me. T. Pretend that I have someone 2T to the power of T. Chapter 1037. Shi Shang pulled the corners of his mouth into a smile, boasting shamelessly, "After all, you're powerful." Xian Man's pretty face immediately flushed red. She glared at Shi Shang hatefully. Why didn't she die outside? Why did she come back? The next second, she suddenly chuckled. "Your mission failed." "How do you know I failed? Xikong Feng's whereabouts are unknown, right?" Shi Shang raised his eyebrows and looked at Xian Man. The male lead might have just met the female lead, so he had to seize the time to cultivate their relationship. Xian Man snorted and raised her chin. "I just got the news that Xikong Feng appeared in a small town." Her expression slightly twisted. "You haven't tasted the Hall of Penal Law yet. This time, you have to properly experience it." Even if she didn't die outside, she would still lose a layer of skin after entering the Hall of Penal Law. According to Lianyu Pavilion's rules, once an assassin failed a mission, they would be punished in the Hall of Penal Law. The original owner had never failed a mission since her first one, so she never knew what the Hall of Penal Law was like. "Is that so?" Shi Shang's tone was calm, without any fluctuations. Xian Man furrowed her brows. At this time, she could still be so calm? Humph. This woman is the most pretentious. Wait until she enters the Hall of Penal Law, she will cry. Shi Shang ignored Xian Man and opened the curtain to let Lu Lin come down. Seeing Lu Lin, Xian Man seemed to have thought of something and smiled even more proudly. You failed this mission because of Lu Lin. He will also be punished. Tell me, with your brother's weak appearance, do you think he can survive? Lu Lin's body had been weak since he was young. If it wasn't for Lu Yu's outstanding ability to protect him, Lu Lin would already be a skeleton. Lu Lin stood in front and met Xian Man's gaze without fear. This matter is my responsibility. It has nothing to do with my sister. I will take responsibility. The 15-year-old youth's slender and thin body was straight. His pale face made him look weak, making people feel sorry for him. Xian Man sneered. Humph, you take responsibility? Have you forgotten the pavilion's rules? Lu Lin's expression slightly changed. The pavilion's rules. No matter the reason for failure, the assassin who accepted the mission must be punished. At that time, he would rather die than let his sister come back. Shi Sheng pulled Lu Lin back. You're just a kid. Don't try to show off. Xian Man laughed maniacally. Haha, look at how close you two are. It's funny. In our line of work, we can't have weaknesses. But Lu Yu, your weakness, said. Lu Lin's face instantly turned pale. Sister. It was true that he was his sister's weakness. The pavilion used him to restrain his sister, and the people outside used him to threaten his sister. The only reason he was alive was to add to his sister's burden. Shi Sheng patted Lu Lin's head and sighed. Lu Yu lives for you. She was working so hard for her younger brother. Sister. Lu Lin probably didn't understand why Shi Sheng would use his name, but what she said shocked him even more. Lu Yu was a man of few words. How could he not be shocked when he heard Shi Sheng's words? Shi Sheng smiled and said, Watch me beat him up. Hearing this, Xianman's expression changed. She pointed at her and said coquettishly, Lu Yu, what are you trying to do? Shi Sheng turned his head and smiled sinisterly. What am I trying to do? Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. I will beat you up. Shi Sheng took out his iron sword. Xianman's beautiful eyes swept across Shi Sheng's iron sword. She frowned slightly. Why hadn't she seen her use that sword before? It looked like an ordinary sword, just like the iron sword that could be found everywhere in the weapon shop. But that aura, it was like a peerless treasure sword that didn't hide its sharpness. People who learned martial arts had an intuition about weapons. This sword wasn't simple. Jealousy appeared in Xianman's eyes. Where did this bitch get it? Lu Yu, this is Xianyu Pavilion. Do you know what kind of punishment you will receive if you make a move here? Shi Sheng stretched his neck. I don't know. Humph, I'll tell you. Xianman's voice suddenly stopped. All that was left was a scream like a pig being slaughtered. The news of Xian Man being beaten at the gate quickly spread throughout Xianyu Pavilion. If Xian Man didn't run fast enough, Shi Sheng was afraid that someone would make a move on Lu Lin first and didn't chase after her. Xian Man would probably have died. The news of Shi Sheng and Lu Lin's return also spread. They didn't know the details of the original owner's mission. Xian Man knew that it definitely wasn't through proper channels. Every assassin's mission, other than the person who issued the mission and the higher-ups, was absolutely confidential. So the people who were quarantined only knew that her mission might have failed. Lu Yu had always been the #1 assassin in Xianyu Pavilion. She had never failed. Suddenly, there was news that she might have failed. Many of the assassins in Xianyu Pavilion actually rejoiced in her misfortune. Even if they were captive assassins, they still had competition. The higher the ranking, the better the treatment. For example, Lu Yu could only go out on a mission once every 3 months. As long as she didn't leave Xianyu Pavilion, she could do anything. Who didn't want to live a peaceful life? Who was willing to stain their hands with blood and live a precarious life? Now, not only did she come back, she even arrogantly hit Xian Man. Things were getting lively. Sister, Xian Man has someone protecting her. Hitting her will cause trouble. Once they entered the courtyard, Lu Lin couldn't help but anxiously say. Shi Sheng's face was calm. Since you've already hit her, why don't you kill her to keep her quiet? Lu Lin. Dear sister, who's joking with you? He closed the door with a panicked expression. Sister, you've been outside these days. You don't know that something big happened in the pavilion. Xian Man is going to marry the son of the Storm Hall's hall master. Is it that bad asterisks? It's just the hall master's son. No, how can people get married in our pavilion? She remembered that there was a rule in Xianyu Pavilion. No office romance. Lu Lin nodded. That's true. I heard that the Storm Hall Master helped the pavilion to accomplish something big. He asked the pavilion master for this favor. The pavilion master took the lead to break the rules. Shi Sheng muttered. Sister. Lu Lin called out seriously. Why are you focusing on these strange things? Ah. Shi Sheng looked at Lu Lin. Then should we go find someone to rely on now? Lu Lin. Why do we need to rely on someone to rely on? Is there something wrong with sister's brain? Why is she speaking so strangely recently? Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy. Forbid office romance. Who among you is secretly dating? Come out now. Cherub. I'm reporting your daughter. Shi Sheng, draws sword. Feng Ci and I are in a relationship that transcends dimensions. When did we start an office romance? Cherub, dumbfounded. My account might have been hacked just now. Little Fairy. You promised to vote for me just now. Cherub. Tricks, it's all tricks. Ah, friend, goodbye, goodbyes. Chapter 1038. Shi Sheng was just casually talking about thighs and what not. In her heart, she was the thigh that was shining with golden light. No matter how thick someone else's thigh was, it was still someone else's. She couldn't cut it off and attach it to herself. So the best way was to make her thigh strong enough. Okay, go back to your room and rest. Shi Sheng waved her away. With me here, no one will dare to do anything to you. The original owner's wish was to protect Lu Lin, so she had to protect him. She was tired. It was better to take revenge directly. She had to work as a bodyguard. It was too degrading. Lu Lin felt that his sister was really strange. He thought about it for a while and felt that it was probably because of the last time she was captured and tortured. After all, his sister had never failed before. She might not be able to accept it so quickly. Sister. Lu Lin was still worried. Xian Man and the leader of the Storm Hall weren't easy to deal with, but his sister still wanted to go against them. Shi Sheng glared at him fiercely. If you don't get out, I'll beat you up. Lu Lin. His sister's temper is getting worse. Lu Lin went out with a heart full of worry. In the evening, what he worried about happened. The people of the Hall of Penal Law took Shi Sheng away. The original owner had never been to the Hall of Penal Law, so she didn't know what it was like. Shi Sheng's first impression was that it was gloomy, and the second was that it smelled bad. There was a strong smell of blood inside. All the windows in the hall were covered with black cloth. Only the door allowed light in. There were instruments everywhere. They were stained with blood. Some had already dried, while others were still fresh. At this time, there were 3 people in the Hall of Penal Law other than Shi Sheng. One was the leader of the Hall of Penal Law, one was the leader of the Storm Hall, and the other was the son of the leader of the Storm Hall. Shi Sheng looked around as soon as he came in. His arrogant attitude angered the leader of the Hall of Penal Law. Lu Yu. The leader of the Hall of Penal Law sat on the only chair in the hall. His square face was solemn. Do you know your crime? Shi Sheng raised his eyebrows. Crime? What crime? I have a lot of crimes. There was a faint smile on her face. At first glance, she looked very harmless, like a naive and ignorant little girl. But when you met her gaze, those calm eyes, you would completely overturn this conclusion. Did you hit Man? The son of the hall master of the Hall of Penal Law, Xian Xian, roared angrily. He looked as if he would pounce on her and kill her in the next moment. I did. What's wrong? It was a pity that he didn't kill her. It was obvious that this woman was going to cause trouble. Should he go and kill her tonight? Host, please don't cause trouble as soon as you come over. We're both cannon fodder. Why are you in such a hurry to kill each other? If the cannon fodder didn't work hard, their chances of survival would be even lower. I was actually speechless. The leader of the Hall of Penal Law signaled Xian Xian not to be impulsive. He said with a straight face, "You are not allowed to fight with your fellow disciples in the pavilion. This is the rule of the pavilion. According to the rule, the one who starts the fight will be flogged 80 times. Lu Yu, do you have anything to say?" Shi Shang immediately raised his hand. "I have something to say." The Hallmaster glanced at her. "Speak." "I didn't hit her in the pavilion." The Hallmaster of the Hall of Penal Law shouted angrily, "There are so many people and you still want to quibble. You just admitted that you hit Xian Man. What's the point of quibbling now?" Shi Shang rolled his eyes at the Hallmaster of the Hall of Penal Law. "I didn't say that I didn't hit her." The Hallmaster of the Hall of Penal Law. "You hit her and you still dare to be so righteous. Look at her attitude." "Hallmaster, you have to make a decision for Man. Our wedding is in a few days, but now she. How can the wedding go on?" Xian Xian glared at Shi Shang. "You must punish her properly. Otherwise, she won't even know her name." "Lu Yu." Shi Shang answered with a straight face. Xian Xian choked on the two words, Shi Shang. What did he mean by answering so seriously? Who was asking for her name? The Hallmaster of the Hall of Penal Law's aura intensified. His voice carried a hint of intimidation. "Lu Yu, there's no point in quibbling. You hit her first and there's a witness. If you plead guilty now, I can still reduce your punishment. If you continue to be stubborn, then don't blame me for being merciless." Shi Shang continued to roll his eyes. "I'm telling the truth. I didn't hit anyone in the pavilion. I did hit someone outside the pavilion." "Why?" "You're not allowed to fight in the pavilion. Are you even going to interfere outside?" At that time, Xian Man was standing at the entrance. She was the one who brought Xian Man outside to beat her up. How could she say that she was in the pavilion when she hadn't even stepped through the entrance? The Hallmaster of the Hall of Penal Law slapped the armrest of his chair. "Lu Yu, don't try to twist your words. You hit someone at the entrance. Isn't that hitting someone? That's none of your business. The rules say that you can't hit someone from the same sect in the pavilion." "Did I hit someone in the pavilion?" Shi Shang emphasized the words, "in the pavilion." "You." "What about me?" Shi Shang raised his chin. "The rules were set by the Hall of Penal Law. Don't tell me you're wrong." "Humph. Do you think you were outside the pavilion just because you said so? Who can prove it to you?" The Stormy Hall's Hallmaster, who had been silent all this time, suddenly snorted. This man looked like a treacherous official. He had shifty eyes and his eyes were filled with scheming. Shi Shang met the Stormy Hall's Hallmaster's gaze without fear. He said arrogantly, "Then who can prove to you that I hit someone in the pavilion?" "Of course there is. Go and summon everyone who was present today." The Stormy Hall's Hallmaster ordered the person who brought Shi Shang in. Shi Shang looked at him and secretly gave the person a look. When everyone was summoned, sure enough, everyone pointed out that Shi Shang was the one who had hit someone in the pavilion. "Lu Yu, what else do you have to say now?" Shi Shang tilted his head and looked at the witness number 1 standing beside her. "Are you sure?" Witness number 1 lowered her head and nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Swish! An iron sword suddenly appeared and rested against witness number 1's neck. The woman with the sword smiled sinisterly. "Come, say it again. Did I hit someone in the pavilion?" With the iron sword at his neck, witness number 1 felt a chill run through his body. He was so cold that he couldn't stop trembling. Endless panic filled his heart. "Lu Yu, how dare you?" Shi Shang dared to threaten people in front of him. The hall's hallmaster was so angry that he jumped to his feet and pointed 2 fingers at Shi Shang. Are you trying to threaten people to change their words? Shi Shang said confidently, why not? Do you still have any respect for the Hall of Penal Law? Arrogant Shi Shang came online. You want to get into I's good books? Do you think the Hall of Penal Law is made of gold? Asterisk little fairy. Do you still have any respect for me? Cherub. Yes. Little fairy, then vote. Cherub. I refuse to vote. Chapter 1039. Lu Yu, are you trying to rebel? The leader of the Storm Hall shouted. Don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you're the #1 assassin in the pavilion. It's not like we don't have a way to deal with you. You want to kill me? Shi Shang made an exaggerated expression of surprise. The leader of the Storm Hall continued to snort. You're guilty of more than beating up a fellow disciple. You've failed your mission. Even if I let you die in the Hall of Penal Law, I can still answer to the Pavilion Master. Then you're amazing. Shi Shang continued to be surprised. The leader of the Hall of Penal Law frowned. Why was there something wrong with this Lu Yu? In the past, Lu Yu wouldn't talk back to people like this. Except for when she was talking to Lu Lin, she was usually very cold. He and the leader of the Storm Hall looked at each other. Lu Yu, I think you don't want to leave the Hall of Penal Law. You're talking as if you're going to let I out. If you want to use a sedan chair to carry me out, I don't mind. The leader of the Hall of Penal Law, the leader of the Storm Hall. Dad leader, why are you talking nonsense with her? She beat Man up like that. I want to avenge Man. Xian Xian's eyes were red. She pulled out her sword and wanted to kill Shi Shang. Shi Shang said sarcastically, oh, I'm scared of you. King retard. I am the ancestor of fighting. If you want to fight with I, you'll have to go back to the furnace and be reborn for a few hundred years. Lu Yu, you're courting death. Xian Xian was completely enraged. She ignored the leader of the Storm Hall and rushed towards Shi Shang with her sword. Witness number 1. Could she not put the sword on his neck? He felt like his head would be cut off in the next second. Shi Shang's iron sword moved away from witness number 1 and blocked Xian Xian's sword. The two swords collided with a clang. Shi Shang seemed to have blocked it casually, but he actually used a lot of strength. Xian Xian's wrist went numb from the shock. The sword flew out of his hand and fell to the ground, breaking into 2 pieces. The iron sword drew a beautiful sword flower in the air. With a swift and fierce momentum, it pierced toward Xian Xian's chest. Just as the iron sword was about to pierce Xian Xian's chest, a wave of internal energy swept over from the side and hit the iron sword, causing Shi Shang's body to stagger. Xian Xian was pulled behind the hall master of the Storm Hall, who scolded her with a gloomy face. You dare to make a move in the Hall of Penal Law, Lu Yu, you are really lawless. Shi Shang was furious. Be reasonable. Your son attacked me first. I was just defending myself. I won't take the blame for this. I don't want to be a scapegoat. The Tempest Hall's hall master obviously wanted to shift the blame to Shi Shang. He secretly circulated his internal energy and fiercely attacked Shi Shang. Shi Shang quickly jumped away, not forgetting to curse, Bah! Despicable! The Tempest Hall's hall master didn't reply and attacked again. He was determined to kill Shi Shang. He was a hall master. For so many years, no one dared to challenge his authority. She really thought that he didn't dare to kill her. What Qianyu Pavilion didn't lack the least was assassins. This body's martial arts were originally not bad. With Shi Shang's help, even if his internal energy wasn't as strong as the Tempest Hall's hallmaster's, it wasn't a problem to rely on moves to win. Therefore, after the Tempest Hall's hallmaster was kicked away by Shi Shang, his face was full of disbelief. When did she become so powerful? Qianyu Pavilion had an assessment every 6 months. Half a year ago she wasn't this powerful. Dad. Xian Xian quickly went forward to help the Tempest Hall's hall master up. Dad, are you okay? The Stormy Hall's hall master kept spitting out blood as if it didn't cost anything. Shi Shang was speechless at the sight. I say, I didn't use that much force just now, so why are you vomiting so much? I thought that I was powerful again. Can you be more narcissistic? The Tempest Hall's hall master was so angry that he vomited blood again. He had an old illness. Just now, he didn't know how it affected his old injury, which made it look more serious. But to be humiliated by Shi Shang like this, even if he could endure it, he couldn't. The Tempest Hall's hall master wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood up from the ground. He let Xian Xian stand aside and fought with Shi Shang again. The Tempest Hall's hall master was kicked away for the second time. Probably because he vomited too much blood just now, he didn't vomit too much blood the second time. Lu Yu, you're courting death. The disciplinary hall's hall master slapped the back of the chair and pulled out the sword beside him. His body was as swift and fierce as a tiger. The fierce air pressure shattered the stable factor in the air. Outside the main hall, a man stood at the door. His hands were clasped under a wide white cloak with ink patterns. His face was slightly tilted. His ink-like black hair hung down and covered his face. Only his jade-like skin could be vaguely seen. He didn't have any aura around him. If one didn't see him with their own eyes, no one would notice him. Even if he didn't have a face, he stood there like a painting. The hall was filled with ghost-like cries and wolf-like howls, as if something terrible was going on. From time to time, a woman's clear voice could be heard. There was a bit of confidence in her arrogance and arrogance in her confidence. The man had been standing outside for as long as the sound inside lasted. When the sound disappeared and footsteps approached the door, the man's figure flashed. The moment the door opened, he disappeared without a trace. The wind blew across the steps. Leaves floated in the air and fell down. In the sound of cicadas, the woman with a flamboyant expression stepped out of the door and turned around. Before you want to kill me, think carefully. How many lives do you have for I to play with? These words were carried away by the breeze and passed into the ears of the man standing on the roof. He lowered his head slightly. His long eyelashes blocked his eyes. The woman below seemed to have noticed something. She suddenly raised her head and looked in his direction. The man quickly jumped down from the roof. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He whispered softly, "So sharp." The two men standing behind the man looked at each other. What's wrong with his lord today? Why is he so happy? No matter what, if his lord is happy, someone is bound to be unlucky. It's better for them to stay silent and be the background. Shi Shang looked at the roof thoughtfully. She frowned slightly. Why did she feel like someone was watching her just now? Was it an illusion? Was it an illusion from beating someone up? Are you kidding me? Shi Shang tilted her head and jumped onto the roof in a few steps. She looked around. All she saw were connected roofs. There was no trace of anyone, not even an animal. Her gaze swept across the courtyard below. Suddenly, she sat down and took out some sunflower seeds to eat. In the room below the courtyard, the two subordinates stood with bated breath. They glanced at the figure on the roof from time to time. The window blocked some of the view. They could only vaguely make out that it was a girl. Was this the person who was about to be unlucky? It was actually a woman. No, what was she doing sitting on the roof? After such a long time, they were almost out of breath. Asterisk, you might have met a fake fairy and read a fake book. Ha 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 ha. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.